Welcome to SicEm365 Radio.
Oh, a step back. Beautiful on the score for Snead.
SicEm365 Radio is presented by IdealMRI.com. High-quality MRIs for $497 or less. IdealMRI.com. Your health is important, so is your budget.
Brewer to the air. Wide open is Edgar for the easy touchdown. Well, he scored one already on the ground, this time through the air, and the senior from Henderson, Texas. A couple of scores already.
The 3 o'clock hour is sponsored by Waco Custom Marketplace. Meats, sweets, Texas treats, and a cut above the rest. 425 Lake Air Drive, Waco.
And Mayers for the win for Baylor from 30. Good hold, good snap. The kick is through. Baylor breaks its losing streak. And it's a yellow rush on the field, 32-31.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
Welcome into SicEm365 Radio. Paul Catalina, David Smoak, and Craig Smoak on your Thursday afternoon loaded show today.
We are loaded up because we have, again, as we've been doing now for the last, I guess, really since we started back in April, if there's somebody that's attached, that's hired, whether it's at Baylor or a football coach hired somewhere or a personality, we talk to them, but we also try to find those who know them. You know, Chancey Stuckey was on our show Tuesday and discussed how he was at a coffee shop in Waco and thought he recognized a former NFL quarterback and a friend of his. That former NFL quarterback, Richard Bartell, he actually works at a Baptist church in Waco. He'll join us today to talk about Chancey Stuckey, the year that they played together, and talk football. He was a quarterback with the Cowboys, with Washington, in the NFL with Arizona. He's from Grapevine High School, played at both SMU and also Tarleton State. He'll join us today at 3:25. The latest addition to the Baylor women's basketball program, Chrislyn Carr from Texas Tech, not eligible to play till next season. She'll join us today at 3:45. Also, we'll hear from Scott Drew and Adam Flagler as Baylor men get ready for Oklahoma State, that game tomorrow, Saturday on the road. Mickey Spagnola will join us. Dave Aranda, Baylor football coach, at 5:30 today. And then also at 5 o'clock, mentioned the story yesterday, Craig. Dennis Polian is now a part of the football staff. Comes to Baylor after his time with Arizona under Kevin Sumlin. He also was at A&M. He was with the Tennessee Titans for 5 years. He's been in the NFL. His dad is Bill Polian. His brother once went to Baylor, was a GA back in, I think, like 1999 and 2000. But Dennis Polian, a part of that personnel staff. He's the chief of staff. And Steve Underwood, 40 years, longtime executive with the Oilers and Titans, knows Dennis Polian. He just recently retired, and he's going to join us today to talk about him at 5 o'clock.
Great. Yeah, I mean, like, that's great. And, you know, I guess we'll learn something about him. I don't know much about Dennis Polian, and yeah, like that'll be great to learn some information on him.
Yeah, we'll have it and just kind of give us some background, but also we'll pick his brain about, remember the Oilers moved to Nashville. He was a major part of that as far as he was in the middle of that. And then just NFL football in general. One of the notes about Dennis Polian, and this is something that could be of interest because of his NFL experience. What's one of the things we've talked about with this open the transfer portal? You get the rosters are being juggled. You have to deal with that in the NFL all the time with a salary cap, and perhaps he has some experience, and that might help Baylor as well.
Well, Mac has said a couple of times on our show when we had him is that there probably needs to be a full-time position on most coaching staffs, which is essentially roster management. So essentially a GM, so to speak, a player personnel, like not personnel as far as who's in the building, like who do we get in the building, who's going out of the building, a transactional czar, so to speak.
Yeah, that's something they're going to have to juggle, and Mac, like you said, has talked about it a lot. So, like I said, I'm interested in getting to kind of, hear more about him, and I don't know a lot of what his role entails. Like it's hard for me to get too one way or the other about, what to think because, we hear a title, but we don't really know what it means.
Yeah.
And I just went on a rant yesterday about getting too excited about behind-the-scenes guys. You know what I mean? So I think it's intriguing, and that's why it's going to be fun to get some more background on him. But, I have a blank stare if you ask me, like, what to expect from Dennis Polian's edition, because I really don't know.
No one knows, unless Mac Rhodes. Now, Mac Rhodes did tell me a little bit later on that he has 3 people who he has great trust in. All feel like Dennis Polian's a nice hire. Is he a head football coach? No. Is he going to coach wide receivers? No. Is he going to help stop people on defense? Well, maybe with some of the personnel knowledge that he has and some of the experience of managing a roster, but he's not a coach, he's not a player, but very heavily involved, and he has NFL experience, and perhaps that also helps some of the players as well. And he'll join, not he, but Steve Underwood will join us today at 5 o'clock.
And that was, an important position. Obviously, you got a title like Chief of Staff. That means something. And Austin Thomas was an important hire, at least that was what was indicated at the time when he was brought on board. I'd never met Austin Thomas. We haven't really met anybody over the last year. So it's been kind of strange. And, I heard good things, I guess, about what Austin Thomas did, but I, again, couldn't tell you a whole lot about what exactly that was. But I do know it's a position of importance, obviously. So, again, we'll get to learn more about it and get to learn more about, somebody who made the choice to come to Waco. So that's great.
Baylor will play Oklahoma State Saturday afternoon in Stillwater. Scott Drew and Adam Flagler today met with the media. Cade Cunningham is the phenom. He's the freshman. He's a one-and-done player for Oklahoma State. He's phenomenal. And, of course, Baylor has their great guards. Well, Oklahoma State's pretty good with Mike Boynton and his team with guards as well. Scott Drew on the one-and-done phenom and Cade Cunningham, the freshman.
Some years the projected top 2 or 3 pick is more a potential pick, and Cade's a production guy, and that means he's someone that produces right now. He has an IQ that's of a 25-year-old, not an 18-year-old. He has a great feel for the game. He makes other players around him better. There's no facet that he's you can take advantage of. He's a two-way guy. So, I mean, he really doesn't have any weaknesses. So if you're going to have a one-and-done type player, that's exactly who you'd want to have, somebody like that.
Jerome Tang has told us on many occasions when we've talked to him how Scott Drew, all the way up almost until they're about to play the game, is looking for yet one more piece of video, one more piece of evidence, forensics on how to guard somebody or how to do this or how to run a play. And then yesterday, King McClure on this show, former Baylor guard with ESPN, mentioned when I asked him about Scott Drew digging, always looking for something a little bit more, said that he one time called him at 1 o'clock in the morning. Here's Scott Drew when I asked him about that situation.
Well, first of all, college kids, 1 o'clock is they're getting into prime time. So if it was 7 or 8 in the morning, that would be the problem. So, but as far as I think our guys are good because they want to get better, they want to improve, and our culture is that culture. So. Why we've continued to get better is we have the guys that take accountability, want to be coached, want to get better. Mark's one of those guys. We'll
also, by the way, hear from Moon Ursid after the women's win last night in Stillwater. But one more comment from Adam Flagler. Paul, he's the transfer. Mm-hmm. He was a scorer where he was before, and at times he's shown that. But when you have the guards that Baylor has, it's hard for him to get his foot in the door, although he's been able to do that. We heard one time when somebody said something about the quarterback room. It was Fran Fraschilla, the quarterback room at Alabama, when at one time had Tua, it had Mac Jones, and then obviously Jalen Hurts, and how Adam Flagler, or even the case of L.J. Cryer, how important it is to be in a room with all that talent. Here's Adam Flagler on the guards with Baylor.
It's very exciting. Very exciting having a variety of guards from young to old, like you said, being able to all communicate and pick each other's brain and just learn from each other while out there, while they're in practice, while on film.
And that's Adam Flagler, Baylor, and the guards at Oklahoma State. It's going to be an interesting game. They haven't played, as Craig, you mentioned that yesterday. It's been a while. But have you seen Cade Cunningham? Have you been able to watch him on a couple of occasions?
Yeah, I've watched him. He's a good player. I'm not an NBA scout by any means, but I just typed in NBA mock draft here. I know that Cade Cunningham's highly thought of, but I typed it in, and SI, I don't know where they rank on the respectability levels because this could be like some unpaid intern for all I know, but they do have what immediately popped up, the Pistons taking Cade Cunningham number 1 overall next year. So I'm sure that will be consistent across if I were to go look at 2 or 3 others that if he's not number 1, he's close to number 1. So, yeah, they're playing a very talented player this weekend. Oklahoma State as a team is good because of him in many ways, but they haven't played in a long time. So you do wonder if that'll factor in just having the rust of not being against regular competition. And, they are not even practicing. So it's like one thing if you're practicing, you're at least staying in somewhat shape, but they hadn't even been practicing. So they're going to be somewhat rusty, but who knows? I mean, you can't consider that at all if you're Baylor. You can't take that into account. You got to pretend like they've been playing every other night and they're geared up and ready to go.
Last time they played, Paul, was it a beat Kansas? Mm-hmm. Was that the last time they played?
Yeah.
And they're good.
Golly, everybody's beating Kansas this year.
Yeah,
it seems
3
like.
times.
And look, it's funny to me. I like listening to coaches who do in college basketball who don't coach players that like. Scott Drew's not coaching Cade Cunningham, but he knows him backwards and forwards, and the staff knows him because they were trying to get him. And
sure.
And yeah. Scott Drew and staff they don't really go big on one and dones. I mean, they get to some of those guys and they're like, you know what, they're not a fit with what we do.
There was a time with Perry Jones who we thought might be a one and done, and he ended up playing longer than that. And then Isaiah Austin, that was a possibility as well. And both of them were very good with Baylor, but I think they kind of realized, let's do this and try to build it.
Quincy
Miller,
yeah.
Which was an interesting back-and-forth decision with him. But, yeah, that's all together, right? Pretty much back.
Yeah, but they don't get in on that anymore because it's not their style.
Not that they wouldn't take it.
But if Cade Cunningham said, I'm coming to Baylor, they would certainly go, okay. I mean, they're not crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, no, here's another one I just saw that was updated here this week. I got him number 4 overall. So like I said, that's going to be kind of the consistent. He's a top 5 pick.
Yeah.
He's a top 5 pick. But, yeah, I actually enjoy this brand of Baylor basketball a lot better, not because obviously it's like the best teams they've ever had, but there was always like the JUCO guard. They never had like just a point guard from the high school ranks, and Jared Butler's completely flipped that on its head, and they've kind of changed that philosophy. But it was always like, all right, it was Pierre, and let's go get Kenny Cherry, and then let's go get another transfer. And then they sort of broke that a couple years ago, and I like having that guard that you can kind of like grow up with and enjoy and appreciate. Even though if they're really good, they could be gone after a year. And Jared Butler could have been gone after last year. But, fortunately, he's back in the fold. But I do like the way they made up this team. I mean, you look at it, it's a lot of transfers that have had to sit out a year or so. But, I think that's allowed for a lot of that chemistry because those guys all come in and sit out a year and they just get acclimated to everything and they become a part of the team. And then after a year, they're, ready to play. And then they're like, they've already been on the team for a while.
You know what's great about this Baylor team, and Stephen from Virginia, we're coming to you in a second, but and I think college basketball at the top right now is the good teams are the veteran teams. And when I was growing up back in the 90s, the college basketball, when you watch college basketball, when you watch Duke and Michigan and UNLV and Arkansas and those teams that were great, it wasn't because they had a bunch of guys that were going to the NBA after they got there. It was because, in North Carolina, it's because for 3 years you could watch the same team get better and better and better and then like match up and all. That was great. It was awesome. And now you get to see like this Baylor team's a personification of that is, you have some guys that come and go, but for the most part, you get invested with these players. Same with Gonzaga.
Let's not forget who they have coming in. The young man coming in from Europe, and of course a couple of others that are big-time players as well to add.
If you can get Cade Cunningham or Greg Brown, who are going to be one-year rental players, then by all means, you go and get those guys. But if those aren't on your options list, and for Baylor, beating other teams for guys like that, it's going to be few and far between. It might happen on occasion, but for the most part, they're going to lose most of those battles. But if you can't get those guys, I mean, their next options or the options that are right on par with that have been just fine.
Couple of games that have been changed by the Big 12 men's basketball. The TCU game against Kansas will be on January 28th, a week from tonight. That was supposed to be played next Tuesday. They moved it back a couple of days. Iowa State at Kansas, which was supposed to be played this past weekend, will be played now Thursday, February the 11th, as they try to move some things around. Meanwhile, the Lady Bears last night beat Oklahoma State 77-58. I admit I did not watch a second of the game, just trying to get a couple of things done when it comes to our high school football coverage to wrap things up. But I noticed this, and I sent a text to Kyle Robarts, who's their athletic communications. In that game, Baylor's women, the defense, held Oklahoma State scoreless for the first 5 minutes and 22 seconds. Then they also held them scoreless late in the second quarter for 4 minutes. Then at the end of the second quarter into the third quarter, they held them scoreless for 4 minutes and 42 seconds. That's about 13 minutes. They only play 40. A third of the game, which of course you're not going to score, but those were 3 chunks where they completely just shut down Oklahoma State to win by 19.
Well, it looks like they're healthy again.
They didn't have Carrington and Pickell.
But I mean, like healthy as far as practicing and in the groove. And I'm not trying to take anything away from Iowa State, but I think if Baylor practices 2 days before they get to play that game, they probably win. They may not win pretty, but they probably win the game. The fact that they didn't get to practice gave Iowa State just enough of an advantage to win a close game.
I don't know if they couldn't have picked a worse team for them to have to play without much work, because Iowa State coached so well by Fennelly, and they end up winning the game. Before we get to Stephen, here's Moon Urson when asked about trying to bounce back, getting back into a groove, which you just mentioned. This is not very long, but this is Moon Urson.
Well, we don't have a choice, really. That's just mental toughness. That's just keep pushing. But we'll get there. Obviously, we've been off for a little bit, and it's just going to take some time. But games like this definitely help. Our practices definitely help, and we'll get back to shape. And so,
how motivated were you guys after Saturday?
Extremely. That was crazy. But we have to be motivated this entire season. And whether we do it ourselves, as a team with our coaches, we have to find a way to keep winning ball games and to keep doing the best we can. So it was extremely motivating. We're not trying to break another streak. We're trying to defend our territory, defend our Big 12 championship.
All right, that's Moon Urson after the win at Oklahoma State. They, of course, get back on track. All right, 254. Yep. She had a huge game, so did Nalissa Smith as well. I love what she said. We don't have a choice. I kind of like that. Hey, this is what we face. Let's go do it. Let's go figure it out. Let's not sit there and sulk about it. Let's go play. Let's go practice. Let's go get it done. 254-339-1122 on the text line, and also let's go to the phone calls as well.
On the Impact Health Labs caller line, Stephen from Virginia. You're on SicEm365 Radio.
Hey, guys. I don't have much substance today, so I'll try to make it a little quick. First, I want to say, Paul, I'm sorry. I will join your army again. I could not sleep because I had many nightmares about Jeff Suppan attempting to run the bases. And, yes, I know that the Cardinals did not lead in the series and that did not matter, but it was just a terrible nightmare to cap that whole thing off.
So what happens?
Second, that was a really bad moment in my life, Paul. That's really bad. So, I want to let, Baylor fans who might also be Houston Astros or Texas Rangers fans, I want y'all to know, don't come at me on Twitter. It's just better for y'all that way. I've got too much in the reserve. I've got too many years of memories stored up, and I haven't even gotten to the trash cans yet. The last two things are, Craig, did I hear it right that you are that you went to the University of Oklahoma?
No.
Do you have any rooting interest in their games?
No, I didn't go to Oklahoma, but yeah, I definitely have grown up watching and rooting for Oklahoma for years and years. So yeah, that's in my background. Yeah.
So I asked that because at some point you were a young man when Oklahoma and Nebraska were competing with each other at the heights of their powers. I mean, you're not that much older than me, but still, it wasn't that long since both of those programs were relevant at the same time. Did that cause friction in the Smoak household?
Damn right it did.
I'd say that it did when it mattered, but, honestly, I'm not old enough to where it mattered all that much.
Yeah.
The games in the 80s, I was a kid, and I didn't know any, but I was literally 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years old, so the 90s, irrelevant, basically, because Oklahoma wasn't any good and Nebraska was dominant, so those games didn't matter at all. And then there was, a couple in the 2000s, but...
early on there was that great win by Oklahoma when they won it all. Then the next year, Nebraska threw the flea flicker back to Eric Crouch. But they played for a Big 12 title. Mm-hmm. I think one of Nebraska's last years in the Big 12. Listen, they start playing again, I think, next year. It's like in the next couple of years, they're back at it again. God help Scott Frost if he's around.
That's not a good matchup on paper right now for sure. But, yeah, Stephen, it could cause some friction at times. But, honestly, the games weren't like the level of the 70s and the 80s to where they were winner goes to the national title game. So it didn't have as much importance as it might have had, other years.
All right, Stephen.
All right, that's really cool. I'm glad. I got one more thing.
Yes, sir.
I just want to know if y'all could bully Drake a little bit more for me, because
sure.
I asked him if Reggie Jackson was dead or alive today, and he assumed I meant the Detroit Pistons guard.
Oh, God.
So, and he also had a really bad take about Mark Vital's on-ball defense. So, look, I may be a liberal, but look, some people, when they have stupid opinions, just need to get bullied, okay? That's kind of how this works.
Hey, you're not,
no problem.
You don't have to force us to want to do that in the first place.
No, it's
by the
good.
way.
Just thanks for
those two out-of-control young kids, those young homies in the morning,
Thanks for one more club in the bag. We're happy for it.
Yeah, we'll take care of that next time we see him. In fact, we might call him to the studio and say, hey, we got something for you.
Yeah.
Stephen, thank you for a liberal. Yeah, he's a Cardinals fan, and he throws this up in front of me on the timeline, the Game 6, David Freese, World Series.
Yeah.
And it's just too soon. It's too soon, even 20 years from now. Even if Texas was to win one of course, that's going to, if they win one in the next 10 years, it's too soon.
I've never been as invested in baseball since then. I'm still a Rangers fan. I still love the team. I'll still, I guess at the top of my list of sports goals, because the Mavs have won a title, would be the Rangers winning a World Series. and to be as close as humanly possible. I mean, there's no way to be closer to winning a World Series than how close they were with Nelson Cruz in the outfield. There's no way. And, ever since then, I've continued to root on the Rangers. It hasn't, dented my interest, but it's like a piece of me is missing since then. You know what I mean? Just as a sports fan, it's just that was so just awful that it doesn't bother me when people bring it up anymore. It's been so long. It's okay, whatever. Every team's had their embarrassing thing, but it's just, I don't know, man. That took a piece out of me.
I used to know how you feel.
Is this a bad time for me to tell y'all I'm a Cardinals fan?
I don't care.
No, it's fine. No,
the Giants beat them too.
One of my favorite all-time teams was the Bob Gibson Cardinals. It was. I mean, back in the late 60s when they beat Boston, in fact, in the World Series in 67. Then the Tigers beat them the next year. Bob Gibson is one of my favorite all-time players. He died recently.
I just know this. Jack and Steven can't say anything to me.
No,
they can't.
So I don't care about the Cardinals. That didn't bother me. I mean,
for Rangers fans, that's Bucky Dent, right?
Yeah, it wasn't even anything the Cardinals did. It was what the Rangers didn't do.
Yeah.
That's the thing is Nelson Cruz is there to make a play. He doesn't make the play. The Cardinals go on to win that game and the following game. Yeah, you can lay that at the feet of the team, but ultimately they were a couple feet from winning.
Yeah, or strike them out.
Throw
one high and hard.
Right, yeah. But I don't even so much look at it. The Cardinals did something. I look at what the Rangers didn't do. But.
Yeah, it will haunt us forever. Thank you, Stephen. Please block that number.
Thanks for bringing that up, Stephen.
Block that number all the way across the board. By the way, Jack McKenzie, Armstrong Sims, Connor Carruthers here today in studio on 101 Elm off of MLK and just on the north side of the Brazos. Paul Catalina, Craig Smoak. When we come back, Richard Bartell. He knows Chancey Stuck. He played in the NFL with him for a year with the Cardinals. He's next on SicEm365 Radio. Pickup Outfitters, 220 Lake Air Drive. I drove by, in fact, went by Lake Air Drive today, went by Waco Custom Marketplace, and right to the left as you're driving down Lake Air off of Waco Drive is Pickup Outfitters, 220 Lake Air Drive. This is what they have. They have truck accessories, bed covers, bed liners, spray-in bed liners, lay-in bed liners. They have the bed mats, bumper replacements, truck caps, camper shells, and toppers. If you have a pickup truck, there's something they have that can make it even better, even if you have one that's all spiced up with all the amenities and accommodations. Also, floor liners and mats that custom fit wherever you need them. And grill guards and hitches, level kits and low ring kits, step bars, Nerf bars, and running boards. And that's not just for pickup trucks. It could be for your SUV, and it also could be for a minivan. I used to have an SUV. I got one now, that Explorer, but I had a Tahoe, and I had a nice big trunk, and I always had my golf clubs in there and maybe a lot of other things as well that were kind of tucked in the back. And I tried to reach up in there, and I always bumped my shins. Jay Arrett saw it one day, put a step bar on the back where you'd put the hitch. It was so easy to get back to the access behind or in the trunk now. It's Pickup Outfitters, 220 Lake Air Drive, createacommotion.com.
At Baylor University, students find their place to shine. They're faithful friends and inspirational leaders. They're championship teammates and independent thinkers. They're on the cutting edge of high tech and in the halls of history. If you want to make the world a brighter place, you can. And if you want to shine in your own way, you can. The spark you need is already inside you. Bring it to Baylor, where lights shine bright.
It's a new year. Time to fire up the grill, heat up the oven, get that deep fryer going to enjoy the top quality products at Waco Custom Marketplace. Hi, this is David Smoak, including what you'll need to watch the NFL playoffs and Super Bowl. Ribs, sausage, links, brisket, chicken wings, bags of various snacks, and customized appetizer trays. Don't forget to order something now for the perfect home-cooked Valentine's Day dinner, which is closer than you think, including combo packs with ribeyes, fillets, and lobster tails. Live crawfish season is just around the corner. Absolutely the right time to fire up the grill, heat up the oven, get that deep fryer going to enjoy the top quality products at Waco Custom Marketplace. Waco Custom Marketplace, your family meat market, butcher shop and bakery with everything baked fresh with old-fashioned farmers market atmosphere. Serving Waco restaurants and families since 1940. Your one-stop shop for beef, pork, poultry, and seafood needs. Waco Custom Marketplace, 425 Lake Air Drive or WacoCustomMarketplace.com.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine has their easy-to-access drive-thru open and convenient and clean in-store location on the corner of Lakeshore Drive and North 19th Street in Waco. Riverbend Liquor has the best and most extensive variety of craft beer selections in Waco, and Balcones whiskey, including single malt, pot still, baby blue, rye, brimstone, and the all-new lineage in stock. Riverbend Liquor and Wine, family-owned and operated, and a hidden gem in Waco on Lakeshore Drive and 19th Street. And find out more on Facebook and Instagram.
Hey, this is Bryce Petty, former starting quarterback and two-time Big 12 champion, and I know firsthand the importance of being in top shape both on and off the field. So listen up, men. If you're feeling beat down day in and day out and looking for that high-performance edge that separates the men from the boys, then look no further than the Petty Clinic Low T in Waco. Petty Clinic is a comprehensive men's healthcare clinic with an atmosphere catering to men. Board-certified Dr. Kent Petty has a special interest in offering the highest quality medical care to men of all ages. Some of the services offered include screening and treatment for low testosterone or thyroid, infertility, high blood pressure, diabetes, high cholesterol, sleep apnea, while offering comprehensive wellness exams and complete men's health lab panels. High performance men, remember, it's not just a Petty thing. This is Bryce Petty, encouraging you to reach out and Google search Petty Clinic Low T or go to pettycliniclowt.com and get your complimentary lab screening today.
In the market for a quality metal building? Since 1943, Pioneer Steel and Pipe has helped Central Texas residential and commercial customers with metal building design, panel options, building components, and trim options. Pioneer Steel and Pipe's residential line is energy efficient, offers low maintenance, reduces insurance payments, is impact resistant, and carries up to a 45-year limited warranty. In addition, they can also help you find a metal building contractor for your project. Pioneer Steel and Pipe with locations in Waco and Bryan and at pioneersboys.com.
Welcome back to SicEm365 Radio. Call us on the Impact Health Labs caller line at 254-339-1122. For your company's mass COVID testing, log on to impacthealthlabs.com.
All right, back this 3 o'clock hour. We will hear from Chrislyn Carr. We have her scheduled for 3:45 today. She's the new transfer for the Baylor women's basketball team out of Texas Tech. She had an appointment today at 2 o'clock, and hopefully we'll be able to get to her at around 3:45. Richard Bartell, former NFL quarterback. He went to Grapevine High School, played at SMU and Tarleton State, Cowboys, Washington, Arizona, among others. And if you remember the conversation with wide receivers coach Chancey Stuckey, he was at a coffee shop, saw someone's body language or movements, and said, I know him. Richard Bartell joins us on SicEm365 Radio. Hey, can you take us back through that morning? Because obviously that was kind of a surprise when you saw his name show up on your phone.
Yeah, I was just in the coffee shop pretending to be in the huddle, and I broke the huddle, and he was like, man, that looks like a quarterback, you know? No, I was just sitting in the corner. I was doing some work, having a quiet time, and, I got my mask on, and anyway, he ended up calling, and probably couldn't believe it, we're so out of context. I knew that Chancey had got into coaching, but last I knew he was in Clemson and hadn't caught the news that he had got his first job in Big 12. And he certainly didn't know that I had made the move from Waco. I've lived such a transient life. And so this was just, almost providential. It felt like that we would kind of reconnect. I mean, so we kind of met in the middle and shared a big hug, man. It was a joy to see him.
What was your relationship like when you were teammates?
It was great, man. I mean, I think we're kind of both cut from the same cloth. We both, I think try to live authentic lives and live a life of faith. We love Jesus, and we're both pretty adamant about that, overt about that in our playing career. And so, I would consider us kind of the Paul and Timothy of our locker room. We were pretty missional in the way that we went about our business there. Certainly cared deeply and had a love and passion for football as well, so that didn't hurt. But man, I just enjoyed my time around him so much. We had some really fruitful time together.
You mentioned that you didn't quite know about him getting the Baylor job, or kind of you knew he was at Clemson, but not every detail. So when you heard Baylor wide receivers coach Chancey Stuckey, what were your thoughts from a football perspective as him being the guy for that fit?
Well, I thought a couple of things. It's no small thing to be at Dabo, and then obviously he got some kind of strong recommendation right to Dave Aranda, and so he must have done a great job at Clemson to go from quality control, graduate assistant, to your first Big 12 coaching job. And I also thought too, those weird kids that right out of college, their first job is Google, and they don't know any different. You know, it's like they didn't climb the ladder. They just they walked right in the front door, and so I mean, good for him, dude. But that's the kind of favor he's got on his life, and he's going to do a great job here, man. Baylor's in good hands there.
He said he looked at it. He thought he recognized you, and he said, "Siri, call Richard Bartell."
That's right.
And then all of a sudden, you see his name pop up as well. You mentioned the what you know about him with Clemson, and the story is that Dave Aranda, and I think, didn't he say that Dabo Swinney have the same agent? So that kind of was but here's...
No, Dabo came to him to tell him that Terry Bowden was going to be letting him know about the ULM staff, and Chancey was obviously positioned to move on or whatever, and he had seen the opening on Football Scoop, and so when Dabo asked him about, like, hey, Terry's going to come talk to you, he's like, hey, do you know Dave Aranda? And then it just started from there, because, they share an agent.
They share an agent together. So you talk about your faith, and obviously Chancey's mentioned that. We've heard Jeff Grimes and Eric Mateos and Dave Aranda. David Wetzel, by the way, who has said hi as well. What does that mean, you think, to a staff when you have some that are so similar to what they believe in?
Well, I mean, I think alignment is everything in football, you know, and so when you talk about culture, tangibly, you're just talking about the way that we do things here, you know, and so, those core values, I'm sure they've got on the wall, they mean something, but, man, if you've got, what I would call the gift of the Holy Spirit living inside of you, I think you got something a lot stronger, and so men of faith should have that, and I think, living in harmony is going to be really important, but I think it transcends football, so you're talking about family, and you're talking about relationships, and the way that you talk to one another, the way that you bring all things to light, it's just it's really important, and I think it brings kind of the X factor to a staff and to a football team if you can get it right.
You had the opportunity to move from where you were at SMU to Tarleton State. You now see today, Richard, the constant mass flux, almost free agency in college athletics. What do you say about all that?
Yeah, well, I'm all for it. I mean, and I am, because it was part of my story. One kind of asterisk to that is why I transferred was not for playing time. I transferred because I was also a minor league baseball player in the Reds organization. And so, my career for me to come back to football from baseball, I had to transfer down. NCAA wouldn't let me stay at the Division I level. In fact, I tried to come to Baylor, but Coach Morris at the time was the one who was here, and he's actually the one that pushed me to Tarleton after looking through NCAA compliance. And so, anyway, I owe a little bit of my story to a former Baylor coach, but look, it's a new age, and it's hard not to say that it hasn't been beneficial and extremely fruitful for college football and for players in general. And we live in a time when transition and transfers is acceptable, and I like it because there's not a lot of monetary value that comes to the athlete. I understand that they're getting a free education. But when football coaches can just pick up and leave after they sold you on a vision and a relationship for a better job and opportunity, then man, I love the ability that kids have now to say, okay, I was tied to that vision. That vision is no longer here. I'd like to pursue another opportunity. I think that makes sense. And candidly, if you look at the college football playoffs the last few years and the way that those programs have succeeded, short of Clemson, everybody has benefited from a transfer quarterback.
I want to go back. So you were a minor league baseball player, but they wouldn't let you play at the Division I level. But there have been tons of guys who've done, like Ricky Williams, Chris Winkie, Russell Wilson of all. Is that just one of the NCAA's, like, well, not you, Richard Bartell, but these other guys, because they had a better reason? What happened there?
No, I actually did it different than they did it. And so I didn't do like Brandon Weed and Chris Winkie. They went minor league baseball, and then they came back to football. I did minor league baseball and Division I football at SMU at the same time for 2 years, running concurrently. So I was a starting quarterback at SMU, and it was in the minor league system with the Reds. So what that would look like is right when I walked off the stage from high school, I went right into the minor league system that summer, came back for 2 days in fall when the starting job played, and then after the fall, in the spring and winter and spring, I enrolled by correspondence, maintained full-time eligibility online, and that way when I came back in the fall, I was still eligible at SMU. But after 2 years of that, I decided to finish my minor league contract, so I departed. I detached from SMU, was no longer taking classes. I went down to 0 classes, became a full-time minor league player, and then at that point, still today, the NCAA says that you need 24 consecutive hours to maintain eligibility at the Division I level. So when I came back, I had been out of school at that point for 2 years, so I had no choice but to transfer down because I had 2 years of eligibility.
Mm-hmm.
And Coach Morris said, hey, you only have 2 years of eligibility. You can come sit here for a year, but you lose it, and then you only have your senior year, or you can transfer down, still sit, and then play those 2 years. And he said, what are your goals? And I said, man, I want to go to the NFL. He says, well, then I'd recommend going down. You'll sit out, but it's going to take you a year to get back off the rust and then another year to perform. And he was right.
I don't know what you guys are talking about. I think this roster transitional, that's going to be easy. Really simple, really simple to figure all this out. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if you know this at all. We're going to talk to Steve Underwood. He was with the Tennessee Titans and Houston Oilers for nearly 40 years. He's coming on because Baylor hired Dennis Polian to be a part of their chief of staff of football and personnel. And that you almost have to have that roster management like the NFL now, don't you?
Yeah, I think you do from the coach's perspective. You know, in terms of the players, I mean, I'll be honest with you, and I'd be shocked if players knew any more than I knew then. You know, there's a lot to be said about, you know, you make your decisions and then your decisions make you. I think that's still true today. You know, even in the NFL, I mean, I was a professional athlete, and man, I don't know everything that was written in those contracts, and I certainly didn't understand the rules and regulations of the union and all the fine print there. You figure it out as you go, and you make the best decision you can with wise counsel, and then ultimately you just, you know, you bet on yourself is what you do.
Richard, you know, people think about Richard Bartell as our guest on SicEm365 Radio. Think about the glamour of being a part of pro football, but it was not easy for you. Cowboys, Carolina, Cleveland, Jacksonville, Washington. Eventually, you were able to stick a little bit longer with Arizona. What was that like to have to bounce around and not know on occasion whether you would be a part of the final cut or not? How difficult was that at times?
I mean, it was very difficult, but it was also some of the most fulfilling and fruitful thing that ever happened to me. You know, I look at the kind of the ancillary benefits. You know, hindsight's 20/20, and I just see, you know, the network and the relationships that I was able to build. I mean, at times I was with teams, you know, strictly for an off season, and those relationships last today. And I'm going to be 38 years old, and I've been a part of football for about 7-8 years now, and so. You know, football has been kind of a lifetime sanctifier for me. What you hope is that you work really hard, you build great relationships, and you leave a good, you know, reputation and taste in your mouth with people and for people, and then you hope to leverage that, you know, in the future. And football has benefited me to this day. You know, it still comes back around, and you know, and Chancey's a good example of that, man. It's, I mean, I've got a teammate and lifelong friend who's now here, and now I've got another reason, you know, I already had many, but to root for Baylor football. So it's exciting. And
you're now at Harris Creek Baptist Church, is that correct?
That's right. I'm an associate pastor out here.
Okay, all right. That's great. Isn't that amazing? You hadn't seen Chancey in a while. Next thing you know, he's at a coffee shop next to you. It's wild how that all happens. We appreciate your time and also just kind of reminiscing a little bit about your career and also how you remembered Chancey Stuckey.
Yeah, and I'd like to ask too, Richard, just from a personality standpoint, these wide receivers, when they start to get to know Chancey and building those relationships, what do you think they're going to see? What do you think that's going to be like?
They're gonna love him. They're gonna get high energy. They're gonna get complete authenticity. He's gonna confront them. Chancey's a leader. He is in front of them who he's going to be at home in front of his wife and kid. And so they're going to get a great human being, and he's going to inspire and encourage like what leaders do. And so I would be shocked if anybody says anything negative about Chancey. He's going to leave a great taste here.
Richard, thank you very much. Thanks for calling me back, and thanks for being a part of our show, and good luck.
Yep, thank you, guys. Bye-bye.
Richard Bartell, he played at Grapevine, the Mustangs, I believe. And then at SMU.
Yeah, that's really weird, though. That's a small world to be at Common Grounds in Waco. You know, like, just to happen to be there at the exact same time. And I guess it's not so weird when you now know, like, they're in close proximity. But still, though, like, what are the odds of that your former NFL quarterback teammate is just randomly in the coffee shop you walked into for the first time in this new town you're living in? Like, it's weird.
Yeah, but there are people, but that's the other thing about the new town you're living in. There are people that I've known for the whole 15 years I've been here that I see once every 5 years.
Yeah.
You know, that like when I see them, I consider them good friends, but like it just, your schedule doesn't work out that way.
Right.
Yeah, I think there's going to be a lot of that here because there's maybe some people you haven't seen in 9 or 10 months, and you may not see them for another
I haven't seen anybody from the Baylor campus in about a year.
I know.
I mean, it's crazy.
Now, one note, I just saw this. Tate Wallace, who was, of course, a coach at Baylor, and he's gotten himself sideways, but he was a quarterback at SMU when Bartell was at SMU. I just saw that note. Another reason why his career tied a little bit. But coming up next, Chrislyn Carr. She played at Texas Tech. She was the freshman of the year in the Big 12 last year. She's transferred to Baylor. She scored, I think, about 18 points a game last year. She cannot play this year. And Baylor winning last night against Oklahoma State. We'll check in with her. Also, we'll hear a little bit more about Baylor football. Well, a lot more, because Dave Aranda is going to join us, Baylor head football coach, today at 5:30. And this is SicEm365 Radio. Metal roofing, metal buildings, pipe and steel. Metal buildings, how to build it. The building components, the trim options, the color options, the metal building galleries that they have at Pioneer Steel and Pipe in Waco and Bryan, open Monday through Friday, but open as well Saturday morning if you need it from 8 until noon. Metal roofings, the panel and color options, and then pipe and steel, structural pipe, structural steel, purlin, tubing, beams, weld plates, heavy-duty stuff, H-braces, fence posts, culverts, engaged sheet, and expanded metal. Pioneer Steel and Pipe, let's just say this, they've been in business since 1943. They're digging new ground. They're about to build something massive that will still have all of what you need, including great product for what you need to build things, commercial or real estate, and the customer service will not change just because they're moving into a bigger place. It's going to take a while to get there, but they started churning the dirt on 12th Street and Loop 340. Man, I tell you what, it's a great family atmosphere. 1943 and going as strong now as ever before. Pioneer Steel and Pipe on right now in Waco and Bryan, open Saturdays 8 until noon, and building another building that you know will be using the product that they believe in, the product you shop for and use, on 12th Street and Loop 340 in Waco.
Start the new year with a new Ram truck from Allen Samuels. Ram's impressive towing capability, heavy-duty payload capacity, and smooth ride have earned Ram the Motor Trend Truck of the Year yet again. That's 3 years in a row. Check out the new 2021 Ram 1500 Lone Star Crew Cab with up to $7,250 in total value. Or take advantage of 0% for 60 or 2.9% for 72 and get $3,000 in rebates. It's the Start Something New sales event at Allen Samuels, your friend in the car business. Shop now at AllenSamuelsDCJ.com. See dealer for details. All offers have credit requirements.
Boozers is the wedding ring store and more. If you're ready to get engaged or already married and want to upgrade your wife's ring for a special anniversary, Boozers is the place to go. With the largest selection of premier quality diamond engagement rings and wedding rings in Central Texas. They have 7 cases with over 300 styles of rings from top designers like Natalie Kay. Choose from yellow, white, or rose gold, plus beautiful top quality loose diamonds. With an in-house jeweler, they can also custom make anything you want. Bring in a picture or drawing and let Boozers create your one-of-a-kind pendant or ring. They can even use some of your old gold and diamond jewelry to create something new. At Boozers, you'll find a great selection of quality timepieces, and Boozers is the place for expert watch maintenance and repairs, too. They specialize in expert Rolex watch repair for fine jewelry, watches, custom work, and more. Go to Boozers on Valley Mills and Lake Air Drive in Waco.
Boozers, the wedding ring store and more.
One size fits all. That may be all right for an adjustable belt or cheap sunglasses, but when it comes to your financial needs, no one wants a one-size-fits-all strategy. Cam Heathcott, your Edward Jones financial advisor, knows that his most important goals are yours. That's why he takes the time to understand your needs, knowing you. That's how Edward Jones makes sense of investing. Cam Heathcott, covering Conroe and Houston, 936-756-7717 or cam.heathcott@edwardjones.com. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be a part of the Waco community. We're a small family business right here in Central Texas, and our goal is to bring down the cost of healthcare while maintaining high quality. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important, and unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. That's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through the difficult time. We offer premium MRIs just like a hospital with state-of-the-art technology and specialists, but you'll pay less. sometimes thousands of dollars less, whether you're using insurance or not. At Ideal MRI, we accept most insurance and there are no hidden costs, even offering financing if that's needed. Everything included in the price, and you'll not get something as a surprise in the mail later on. If you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. They'll know. You can schedule an appointment safely from home online in minutes at idealmri.com or give us a call, 833-IDEAL-MRI, idealmri.com.
After my first car accident, I feared the biggest damage would be to my wallet. I expected a mountain of bills and a long, drawn-out process. But my Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent was there when I needed her and helped me get back on my feet and in my car in no time. Instead of a hassle, I got reassurance and a quick recovery.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
Welcome back to SicEm365 Radio.
This segment on Baylor Athletics on SicEm365 Radio is brought to you by Richard Carr Buick GMC Cadillac, located at the Imperial Drive exit off Loop 340 in Waco. Proud supporters of all Baylor Athletics.
All right, 3:47 is the time. SicEm365 Radio, women's basketball team winning last night in Stillwater by 19. Nalissa Smith had a big night. Moon Urson. Dee Richards had one of those 7-8 points, 8 rebounds, 7 assists, 4 steals as well. We're now joined by Chrislyn Carr. She's now at Baylor. She played at Texas Tech. She was the Big 12 Freshman of the Year from Davenport, Iowa, who will have to sit out and play next season with Baylor, but she's now a part of Kim Mulkey's program. Chrislyn joins us as well on Zoom on SicEm365 Radio. So, Chrislyn, what was the decision-making here, and how interesting was it to actually transfer in season and coming to Baylor?
Yeah, my decision to transfer was I just needed a fresh start. I love the people at Tech. I love the coaches. It was just I needed a new fresh start, and I needed to start somewhere where I could be the best me. And transferring in season, it's crazy to think about, but after talking with my family, I just knew it was the right decision.
You had to go through a coaching search as well because it was an abrupt change at Texas Tech. How much of that was kind of disruptive as well?
Yeah, it was difficult. Just trying to find the right spot and talking to a lot of coaches and really just seeing which program was best for me. And I just felt like this program was the best for me.
What is it like? You can kind of get thrown in the fire. I know it's been so, but as far as starting the season right now, and practicing and all that.
Yeah, you got to learn new things. You got to learn new plays that you already had all these plays at the other school, and just trying to fit in mid-season and just really trying to figure out what I can do and what my strengths are and what I can bring to this team.
Chrislyn, what did you know about Kim Mulkey beforehand? Obviously being at Tech, you'd seen her on the sidelines, but how much did you know her on a personal level at all? And what's that been like developing a relationship with her and the rest of the coaches?
Yeah, I know she loves to win, and she's going to do whatever it takes to win. She's a great coach. She knows how to get it done. And just our relationship is good. I'm getting to know her. She's getting to know me. She wants the best for me, and I just want to be able to do whatever I can to contribute to this team.
I think you played against Baylor back in December at Tech. You scored 7 points, I think had 4 rebounds. But last year, in 2 games, despite losses, you scored 25 and 19 points. Do you think that might have, not that they were like, oh, we need to get her, but how much do you think attention that grabbed anybody around the country, not just somebody who may want to be a part of your program, you be a part of their program?
Yeah, when I scored that against them, it was good just because, they're a great team. They're one of the best teams in the nation. Just to see what I can do on that level, it's amazing. So I really felt good about those 2 games and how my coach put me in that situation to get it done and believe in me.
Does your perspective kind of grow a little bit, or is it already kind of, since you've played against them like that, you go into practice, you kind of know things already as if starting with a new team you normally wouldn't?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like I said before, it's hard joining in on a new team, especially mid-season. But, I mean, these girls are very welcoming and they're great teammates, and they make me feel like home. So, I mean, it's been great since I've been here.
One of the things that if you play basketball for Kim Mulkey is you have to play defense. Is that something you have to get better at, or do you feel like you're in pretty good shape?
You always got to get better at something. I definitely feel like I have to get better at my defense, just being more scrappy on defense and being a pest on defense. Everyone don't like to be guarded by people who are fast. So, I mean, just getting on the ball and disrupting them, I feel like I can be better at that.
So, Chrislyn, what's kind of the routine for you now? Obviously, you can't play in games, but what are you able to do? What are you able to work on? Like, what's kind of your plan moving forward right now?
Just practicing, getting better, encouraging my teammates, knowing I can't be on the court, but being the best team I can be and just helping them and making them better every day.
Chrislyn, you score a lot. We mentioned that, but you are a natural point guard, correct? And what about your ball skills? And you know that Kim Mulkey was an All-American and won national titles as a point guard. Have you had any conversations yet with her about that?
Not yet, but I'm going to. I feel like she can definitely help my game, and she was a great player, and I bet she still can cross somebody and do anything that she did before. So, I mean, it's going to be great going on her wing and her teaching me new things and make me the best player I can be.
Can y'all imagine the trash talk Mulkey had when she was a player?
Oh, my gosh. Oh, my gosh. I'm sure it was ridiculous. Chrislyn, by the way, none of us are surprised, and no one will be surprised to hear the first thing you say you've got to work on a Kim Mulkey team is defense. I'm sure it's done on the training video. It's lesson 1.
For sure.
You have a program at Baylor that for the longest time did not have transfers. They had some players that sometimes they would move out just because they couldn't handle the standard, or it was a conflict of personalities. But they've now had Alexis Jones, who was fantastic, Chloe Jackson, who was fantastic, Taya Cooper, who was fantastic, and now, of course, you're a part of that. Do you feel like there's some kind of standard now that you need to set as well? And did you have a chance to pick any of their brains in this crazy time that we're in?
I mean, all the people you named, they're great players. They push the ball very well. They're all fast and they love to score. So, I mean, it's kind of like I have the same game as them, and just trying to grow as a player and see what I can do and what I can bring to the table and what I can get better at, really. And just know that all these players that came before me, just matching that level and just matching that energy.
Of course, Jaden Owens, who was on with Up-Tempo earlier from UCLA. Kamario McDaniel, who's out because of the ACL from Penn State. So Dejanay Carrington, who's been out with COVID, she's been out because of whatever reasons, protocols with COVID. So it's kind of become that. I mean, and why not? If you're going to play basketball, go to one of the elite schools, and obviously you are now at Baylor. How much would you leave? You're from Lubbock to Waco. It's not that big of a deal, but that's a long way, even in Texas terms. What about the transition of just being a student during this time and getting yourself settled in there as well?
Yeah, I mean, it's difficult not being able to play this year and really just transitioning to being more of a student than athlete at the beginning, because I really couldn't practice at first. But I feel like once I got settled in, it was good, and just being around my teammates and getting to know them, it's been really great. So, I mean, I can't complain about anything that I've been through or where I'm at now.
Davenport, Iowa. You guys want to know some of the famous names from Davenport, Iowa, besides Chrislyn Carr?
I'm a wrestling fan, so Seth Rollins.
Seth Rollins, a wrestler. Bill Fitch, a 2-time NBA Coach of the Year, was with the Celtics and Rockets. Roger Craig, former 49ers great, played at Nebraska. He's a Davenport, Iowa guy.
There's a lot.
Yeah, there's a whole bunch. And it's not just sports. There's also religion, media, politics, etc.
Well, Chrislyn, he's going to get on there in Wikipedia and get your name on there at the top
of that list. I'm going to add you that list really quick. Tell us a little bit about Davenport. You were basically an All-American type player, scored a ton of points for your high school in Davenport, Iowa. Tell us a little bit about Davenport.
Yeah, I mean, I think Davenport is a city that people really just, no one really looks it up or knows about it. Davenport, it's a great city. There's a lot of athletes there that are really good that go unnoticed. And hopefully me doing the things that I'm doing, it can give a look to my city and just know that it can happen. And anybody who works hard, you can get to where you want to be and fulfill your dreams. So, I mean, Davenport's a great city, and there's great people there and great food. Everyone jokes about it, say, oh, no, there's nothing but corn, but that's not true.
Hey, I was born in Nebraska, so I wasn't there very long, but believe me, I get it. I understand that.
Yeah, but, I mean, Davenport's a great city, and there's a lot of talented athletes there.
Are you practicing right now? Would you mention that earlier? So how much have you already learned from just that experience?
I start practice tomorrow.
Okay.
So
Okay.
I watched today, and that was good.
All right. You set the tone, right? Enjoy it.
Sure.
Thank you.
You excited to just get back out there? I would imagine that's probably, I mean, you're going to be nervous tonight. Not nervous that, anything's going to go wrong, but just, anticipation levels. Are they pretty high right now?
Yeah. I'm very excited to get out there and join my new team and bring my talents to this team and just be around all great players, because they're all great and they all bring something to the team, and they're a great team. So I'm excited to be coached by Coach Moki and her staff and be around the players and just get started.
All right. Thank you, Kristin.
Welcome to Waco.
Yeah, welcome. Thank you for your time. Good luck. You can help the team, push them, right? Absolutely. Scored 19 and 25 points against Baylor last year in a couple of games losses. Bob Stoll, who we had on.
to say that.
Former coach at UTEP and, of course, at, Missouri and places like that. Bob Stoll, who Jeff Grimes played for a year or two in college. He's from Davenport, Iowa. Dana Holgerson from Davenport, Iowa. But I think Roger Craig is probably one of the biggest names, who's kind of on that tweener list of Hall of Fame. As somebody you think if they ever have another large batch that goes in, he might be a part of that batch.
Well, she was really fun to talk to, and seems like she'll fit in really well. Every transfer that I can recall, has come in here and, pretty quickly been able to, get situated and feel like they're a part of the team. One thing that we hear about both of basketball teams, quite frankly, is just how great the chemistry is. And obviously the men have something like really special cooking right now, and they have for the last couple of years. That's kind of been just the status quo with the women. Now they've had their moments, Griner or, just whoever, but for the most part, like, they're thick as thieves. And I'm sure she's being welcomed in and will be, just like normal here pretty soon for her, being a member of the Lady Bears, if it's not already. So, great addition, and excited to see what she does.
Couple of notes in the NFL when we come back. One, Philadelphia has a head coach. The Texans are now on the clock and have been. And a guy that I interviewed a handful of times over my lifetime, Ted Thompson from Atlanta, Texas, passed away, former general manager of the Packers. He's the one that chose Aaron Rodgers, among others who are a part of even the Packers right now. We'll go and get into that. Paul's top 5 was affected today. Do you know that?
No, I did not.
What is your top 5 today?
About Tennessee University coaches.
There was a story today that affects your top 5.
Do you even know who I put on the list?
No, it doesn't matter.
Okay.
It affects your top 5.
Okay.
I'm telling you that right now. When we come back, SicEm365 Radio, Mickey Spagnola on the Cowboys at 4:30. Dave Aranda today live with us at 5:30, and also at 5 o'clock, Steve Underwood, former longtime executive of the Tennessee Titans and also the Houston Oilers. He knows Dennis Polian from when he was with the Tennessee Titans, who's now a part of the Baylor staff. This is SicEm365 Radio.
2021's finally here. Make it great by starting big at the New Year New Ride Savings event at Richard Carr. You get big haul power, first-class comfort and ride, and unbeatable technology with the GMC Sierra. Right now, save $8,500 on a 2021 GMC Sierra SLE Crew Cab truck. Maybe you're looking for a top-of-the-line midsize SUV. Well, right now, Richard Carr is offering $6,250 off a 2021 GMC Terrain. You save $4,500 off on the stylish, intelligent, and nimble 2021 Buick Encore GX, which includes on-the-go technology. And during the New Year New Ride Savings event, all pre-owned cars and trucks are priced to move with amazing deals all over the lot, including cars and SUVs for under $137 a month for qualified buyers. So if your credit stinks like 2020, well, it's a new year, and in 2021, 100% credit approval is the goal. So bring your tax refund or your stimulus check, and they will help you out with even bigger savings that will pay off for years. So go to Richard Car Motors today for details and a test drive, or log on to richardcar.com now and have them bring the test drive to you. Make 2021 the best year ever, starting with a new car or truck during the New Year New Ride Savings event at Richard Car.
Don's Humidor, your home with a 48-foot walk-in humidor with the elite cigar brands from around the world, including the #1 cigar of the year, Aging Room Cuatro Nicaragua. Plus, they have the great brands like Macanudo and Artur Fuente, Rocky Patel, Aston, and so much more. CBD, great for sore muscles, aches and pains, sleep, Vita Dreams, and anxiety, mild depression, general health and wellness. Their staff very knowledgeable on the subject. If anyone is curious about CBD, ask Carol and Ashley. Don's Humidor in the Townwood Shopping Center off Valley Mills in Waco.
From the first workout to the last practice, sports is an incredible challenge. Hi, this is Dan Ingham with the First National Bank of Central Texas, and we're proud to support each athlete, every parent, and our educators. From families, small businesses, to the biggest industry, we're here to help. With remarkable products like First Free Checking, we've got banking ideas that fuel big dreams. The First National Bank of Central Texas. Familiar faces making local decisions.
Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Car has the trucks, man. They have the one for you. Crew cab, short or long bed, silver, black or blue. Texas size selection, great prices too. Richard Carr, he has the truck for you. Carr has the trucks, man. He has the truck you need. If you want the best truck, you want a GMC. Texas size selection, great prices too. Richard Carr, they have the truck for you.
Do you or your kids get nervous about going to the dentist? Stonewood Dental, Dr. Steve Childress, he can help.
I've spent a career taking care of patients who as children had bad experiences, and now they're adults that hate going to the dentist. If I get a kid at 3 years old and they come every 6 months and it's a happy experience, it's normal for them. Now they have an accident at 6 or 7 or 8 at school. Now they have a broken tooth or a trauma, and they have to come here. They're used to lights, they're used to water in their mouth, they're used to experience, they already trust us. It's amazing what we can do with that kid without it being a negative thing. But if I see a 6 or 7 or 8 year old that's never been to the dentist, and now they have a trauma or an unfortunate unexpected toothache, it's harder to do that for that kid and it not be somewhat of a negative experience. So bottom line is I try to teach kids and adults and teenagers and everybody the way I'd want my family treated, which is where it's a necessary part of life. You just take care of it. It doesn't have to be that big a deal.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
Let Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physician of Baylor Athletics. Our doctors specialize in the diagnosis and treatment of any and all sports-related injuries. Celebrating over a decade of service in Central Texas, our doctors are equipped to handle a wide range of issues, whether it's your foot or ankle, orthopedic spine care, your hand or wrist, knee and shoulder pain, or if you're in need of our arthritis or total joint clinic. Come see us at the new Baylor Scott and White Ted and Sue Getterman Sports and Orthopedic Center. Trusted doctors at Baylor Trust, Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics. Our goal is to get you back in the game.
Welcome back to SicEm365 Radio.
Steps up and throws. He's got a man open. Caught! Atkinson down the sideline. Big play for Baylor.
The 4 o'clock hour is sponsored by Boozer's Jewelers, the wedding ring store, specializing in custom jewelry and repair, all in-house.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
We had Baylor offensive lineman Eric Mateos on the show yesterday. You guys remember the story about putt-putt with him? What was the story?
He and his wife play putt-putt, and he's undefeated, and he talked a lot of noise.
He did, and then he said, oh, maybe this could get back to somebody. Mom Mateos on Twitter, his mother, I saw her follow me.
Mm-hmm.
So I sent a note. I said, are you Eric's mother? I don't want to bother you. I'm just curious. We had him on the show today. I am. And I just listened to the Putt-Putt King.
She's clearly very proud of at least that accomplishment.
You know that he had to face something.
No, like I said during the interview, we just watched that Tiger documentary, and to me, the biggest revelation, the most interesting thing was when they paired him with Phil at the Masters, and he decided that he was going to toy with Phil's emotions and straight up did it. That's what Eric Mateos is doing.
Yeah. So a sad note today in the NFL. Ted Thompson, former Packers general manager, played with the Oilers, played at SMU. He was a high school player at Atlanta. He was part of the Rabbits at Atlanta High School. Super Bowl GM when they won under, I guess, with Rodgers.
Rodgers, yeah.
He died at 68 today. Very young age. And he played 10 years with the Oilers, Packers GM from 05 to 17, then became a consultant because of declining health. He's a part of the Packers Hall of Fame. Had him on a handful of times during my career. Always a classy guy. Always knew where his roots were out of deep East Texas. And he's the one who drafted Aaron Rodgers, Devontae Adams, Mason Crosby, Corey Linsley, Aaron Jones, and defensive tackle Kenny Clark. Now, of course, you should. You have, but those are some dudes that have made a difference for the Packers.
Look, Aaron Rodgers was just pulling down the draft board, and at the time, people thought, well, they've got Brett Favre. They don't need a quarterback.
Yep.
And they did it. And look, that's why you drafted Aaron Rodgers when you get a chance to, because they've had two quarterbacks for the last 25 years. And that's why you do that.
Yeah, no, he made a lot of good moves and was very well respected from what I can remember. I remember, him being an Atlanta native and all of that. But, 68, and he had some sickness that he had been diagnosed with not that long ago, right, that was the ultimate proving, factor in him passing at 68. But unfortunate, sad news. Anytime anybody leaves this plane, so best wishes to his family.
The tweet or text to us from 254, there's some recent rumors showing the Washington football team interested in Deshaun Watson. If it's true, does that change the Cowboys' landscape as far as any of the draft goes? They have their quarterback. They can't react to that. They have a quarterback. Dak is going to be their quarterback. They know what they need, and whether Washington gets him and I still think Watson plays in Houston, but I could be wrong. I think they know their problems and what they need to fill.
Well, it could shuffle like what happens in front of them, but it won't happen with Washington because Washington will be picking behind them.
Yeah.
So I don't see how it has much of a factor because you would need Washington to be in front of you and in need of a quarterback or I guess whatever, maybe some other position that might affect you. Won't affect the Cowboys, obviously. So, I don't see how it really does at all.
Well, one team that picks ahead of them, Paul, Philadelphia, they have their head coach. I got to tell you, I don't know much about Nick Sirianni.
Nobody does.
He's the Colts offensive coordinator. He's he's worked with Andy Reid and Frank Reich, and that's the kind of system the Eagles are staying within. That Doug Peterson's on the Andy Reid tree. So they're kind of staying on that Andy Reid tree to try to keep something down the line, and they go to get somebody who's worked with Frank Reich, who since Frank Reich has gone to Indianapolis, Carson Wentz's career has gone downhill. I think this means that Jeffrey Lurie, I think people should read into this as Jeffrey Lurie intends to get whatever he can out of Carson Wentz before they just give up on him because the salary cap hit, if they trade him, is murderous.
Would Doug Peterson have been fired had he just started Nate Sunfield or whatever his name was and not played Jalen Hurts? Would he have? Because that's the problem. Everyone, again, you kind of had this backlash on social media because he put him in during a critical part of the game and they lost the game. Would anyone have been mad at him if he just would have set a lot of people? They had people set, but they just would have not done it so obviously. Would he still be their quarterback?
I don't know.
He won a Super Bowl for a franchise that had been in two of them. Lost with McNabb and Ron Jaworski. He won a Super Bowl, and 3 years later, he's gone. There's something wrong there. And it's not just because he sat Jalen Hurts.
No.
Something else is there.
Yeah, there's something else going on there. And part of it, I think, was the rumors out there were his relationship with Carson Wentz had deteriorated. I don't think it's necessarily his relationship you have to look at. Maybe it had, maybe it hadn't. But Carson Wentz's play had gone downhill, and they've got a lot of money tied up in him. They've got to get somebody who can get something out of him before they have to cut bait.
Peterson's a quarterback guy, right? He's supposed to be.
But he's not that quarterback guy.
Yeah, no. I don't know how many can be. Maybe it's Wentz. Anyone ever thought about that?
Well, maybe it is. But the problem is like, it may not be Peterson, and it might be Wentz. The problem is that Peterson's cheaper to get rid of than Wentz is right now.
Sure. Well, what will be crazy if they get rid of Peterson and Wentz. Now, the Texans are still looking for a head coach, and we know who they've interviewed. One of the names out there is still Eric Bieniemy, the Kansas City Chiefs offensive coordinator.
God, and please just hire him so people will shut up.
Yeah.
Like, just hire him so people will quiet down.
But then you look at what Philadelphia did with Sirianni, and here's an offensive coordinator, but you say the system, Andy Reid.
Yeah.
Well, what is Bieniemy?
Andy Reid.
Yeah. Now, there's got to be something else, and I know a lot of people might think the fact that he's a black candidate.
Well,
the Texans are also interviewing Leslie Frazier. He just there's something there, and I don't think it's because people are afraid to hire him.
No, I mean, like, to me, people bring up the race factor to it, and I would think, I don't know, like, maybe I've been living in a different world. I would think now would be, like, the ultimate time to hire a black head coach, and would be the absolute worst time to in any way have any ulterior motives around even interviewing a black coach. Like, when would be a worse time to do that than right now? And so I don't think that teams are like, I don't know. There's got to be something, and I don't think it's anything like some dirty little secret or some skeleton, but there's got to be something, folks, for why he's not getting a job yet. And maybe he does get the Texans job. Like I said, I hope he does, just so that the questions about why.
Well, then there'll be somebody else who's not.
Well, yeah, but who cares? But I'm just saying, there's always going to be somebody complaining. But for he's not getting a job because he's black crowd, which is the main crowd. There's got to be a reason other than his skin color.
Yeah, and
there has to be.
And by the way, if in fact he does get the job and it fails, then so could this guy, Sirianni, so can anyone. So
and I'll say this. John made a great point about it yesterday, is that, look, the last couple of years when he's really been at it, teams they're rushing to hire head coaches because they want to get all their assistant coaches in a row so that, so if you want to hire, say the Cowboys hired Dan Quinn. Well, if you wanted to hire Dan Quinn, but you also have to hire another head coach, then that's all, you can't do that when your team's, the guys you want to hire is still in the playoffs. So that's probably hurting him at least. If there's a 50% of it, I think that's 50% of it is that his team's in the Super Bowl and that, everybody's hiring people before all then.
By the way, from the 254, it would be awesome to bring Jason Garrett back to Texas with the Texans and get them back on track ahead of McCarthy and the Cowgirls. Now, Dan Campbell's the new head coach of the Detroit Lions. I've always kind of liked him. He's old school. Dan Campbell, of course, as you mentioned, Paul, is from Clifton, Texas. Is that correct?
He went to Glenrose High School.
Glenrose High School. He played with the Cowboys, long time with the Giants. He's a Parcells guy. He's been with the Saints, and people have nibbled at him as a head coach before. So he did this 19-minute introductory comments. I don't know if it's 19-minute comments. But this is the part that I saw. Sometimes I love Twitter because, well, it makes you giggle and laugh a little bit in this day and age. Too many times it does the opposite. Here is Dan Campbell on this is a team. They're going to absolutely, truly fight, scratch, and claw.
All right, and so this team's going to be built on, we're going to kick you in the teeth, all right, and when you punch us back, we're going to smile at you, and when you knock us down, we're going to get up, and on the way up, we're going to bite a kneecap off, all right, and we're going to stand up, and then it's going to take 2 more shots to knock us down, all right, and on the way up, we're going to take your other kneecap, and we're going to get up, and then it's going to take 3 shots to get us down. And when we do, we're going to take another hunk out of you. Before long, we're going to be the last one standing. All right, that's going to be the mentality. All right, and we're going to learn that any loss that we take, we're going to make sure we feel the full pain of it and not go numb to it and learn from it.
All right, so they're going to get a lot of penalties.
A lot of injuries.
There's going to be a lot of players that are going to be ejected.
By the way, did he have a dip in?
He might have. Let me see that again. Let's see.
All right, and so this team.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Dan Campbell. He played at A&M. He absolutely's got a big old, a couple of fingers full right there.
He's got to be a Copenhagen guy. I know you can't, I don't know. But
you can say
I
it.
can say
you're
it.
Not, you're not trying to sell it.
Yeah, he's got to dip in for sure.
How come is Skoll still around like Earl Campbell?
Sure.
One pinch between the cheek and gum?
Yeah, he's got to be a Copenhagen guy.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's pretty ballsy right there in the middle of a press conference. I'm sure, you know what?
Pretty dumb. I mean, it depends.
Yeah, somebody will oh my God, he's...
I mean, because you know what's going to happen. Some Detroit paper writer is, as soon as he's lost 3 games in a row, how do we expect him to be successful? He wasn't even professional enough to not have a chew-in.
Yeah.
They'll take a picture of his spit cup.
Yeah, there's some Brooklyn resident right now typing that up as we speak.
My God, he's condoning tobacco, and kids are watching, and
no, I'm just saying.
Take a deep breath, gosh.
Well,
please.
Nobody's actually saying that.
No,
I
bet there is. I bet there is.
I don't know. I might have been the first person to notice. I'm just saying. I might have been the first person to notice. I might have caused this problem.
No, it's funny, though. Good for him. But, yeah, they're going to get a lot of penalties and ejections. Absolutely. All right. Danny White. Not the Danny White we've interviewed a handful of times on this show, the former Cowboys quarterback. But Tennessee has hired the AD as Danny White from UCF. You know?
Here's why I liked the hire for Tennessee. It's not an old football coach. It's not someone who's been attached to their university for 100 years. And my PSA to colleges that need ADs is stop doing that. Hire people who know what they're doing. Boise State, and I know I'm biased because he's my friend, but Jeremiah Dickey is a great hire. People in the circles of future athletic directors are like, man, this Jeremiah Dickey guy is going to be good. Boise State went and got him. Danny White's well thought of. And UCF... Buffalo, he was at Buffalo, and they had success in football. He's at UCF. They're having success in football and basketball and everything. So, again, hire somebody who's an athletic director and is trained in what is now that job, which it used to be where Gene Stallings was the AD at A&M, and all you had to do was, make sure that the, budget got spread around fairly when there wasn't much of a budget. But now it's a completely different job. For my university, I want a Mac Rhodes. I want a DeLoss Dodds. I want somebody like that who's a boss and who knows what they're doing, and not somebody that the alumni liked because he won some football games 20 years ago. Does that mean he knows how to be an athletic director? Maybe, maybe not. Barry Alvarez has done an okay job at Wisconsin, but to me, he's an outlier, and sometimes he's kind of a problem.
Who are some former football coaches, you mentioned Alvarez, who have become pretty good ADs?
I mean,
there may be 47 names that we should know.
I mean, like for example, I wouldn't know if, was Tom Osborne ever athletic director?
I think he was the interim athletic director.
Okay, well, regardless, even a guy like him, I don't know beyond football what their successes are. So I couldn't say, off the top of my head, because for all I know, an athletic director who may not be good in football, I know that's what matters and drives the money at the end, but maybe great in 9 other sports and be the best they've ever been, but not be very good at football. So I don't know enough about enough people or even think of any names that aren't before my time that have transitioned into that chair, because there's nobody relatively recently that's even at that stage to be an athletic director really yet.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of some.
Phil Fulmer was the last one I can think of.
He's the only one I think of.
And look what happened. Yeah. I mean, and any of the athletic directors the last 20 years at Tennessee have essentially been handed the keys to a Lamborghini and run it into the wall. So,
because we had a text that said Fulmer at Tennessee. That's the given. That's what we're trying to play off of that, is because Tennessee had to change ADs. Fulmer as an AD, as a former football coach, that's a given. I'm trying to think of others.
Who's been
other
good?
Than Alvarez.
Who's in the Barry Alvarez realm of their athletic department is successful?
Not Joe Castiglione, no. I'm talking about a good AD. He's done a great job. DeLoss Dodds was not a football guy. Mac Rhodes is not a football guy. Del Conte at TCU, or now at Texas, not a football guy. So there's got to be some. I don't know who they are. There might
Ross Bjork at A&M as an AD.
Most of them become consultants or advisors to the president or the AD, and they keep paying them.
Yeah.
I bet Bill Snyder is working for Kansas State in some way, just like former great players are working. Earl Campbell is still a part of the University of Texas staff.
R.C. Slocum still has an office.
Yeah. So, all right. So here's the 254. So you guys truly believe that color doesn't play a role in coaching hires? The NFL did the same thing with the black quarterbacks. Did the black quarterback just get smart enough to play quarterback in the last 10 years. Before that, there were only a sprinkle of them.
No, that's not what we said. What we said was for Eric Bieniemy, there at this point it has to be there's something else that's playing a factor in him not getting hired, whether it's timing, the fact that the Chiefs are been to the Super Bowl last year or in the AFC Championship game every year, or there's something that we don't know about, because at this point, I mean, and maybe look, you can't say that it's been wiped out. I mean, I'm sure there's still some owners that, do their little token interview and be like, I'm not going to, I'm going to hire who I want to hire. I've interviewed this guy and I'm moving on down the road, and that's unfortunate. But at this point, for Eric Bieniemy, it can't be about that.
Yeah, I mean, that was also a byproduct of the Rooney Rule, an unintended consequence of the Rooney Rule, forcing teams to be more diverse in their hiring processes. You did get a lot of teams that already knew the guys they wanted, so they're doing interviews they don't really even need to do, and you've suddenly got to fill like a certain category. And so, yeah, there were definitely guys like Eric Bieniemy getting screwed by that, doing interviews that the team had no intention of actually hiring them because they already knew who they wanted to hire, but they had to interview somebody of color. So, I think Paul just described it perfectly. I'm not saying race doesn't play a role in anything, but I just have a really hard time understanding how in this current climate especially, how that would be the only, that can't be the only factor. I have a hard time believing that, because other black head coaches are getting hired, not at the rate maybe that people want to see, but it is happening.
Some of the coordinators in the championship games this weekend are people of color.
It just doesn't.
I don't even know what to say anymore.
Right?
Black, Asian, Muslim.
Okay. Okay. But anyways, so yeah, I just feel like there has to be something else to, and I don't even think it's anything nefarious. It doesn't make sense to me either. I'm trying to figure it out, and it makes absolutely no sense that he's not a head coach somewhere. And I just have a hard time believing that's the reason why, is because he's black. Because even those in power who are racist or whatever, if he's a good head coach, he's a good head coach. Winning comes before pretty much everything for a lot of people in that sport, in sports. So yeah, I have to believe it's something other than just skin color that Eric Bieniemy is not a head coach, because nothing else makes sense. And I understand, nothing makes sense, and that's the thing that people keep going back to. It drives me insane too, but there's got to be something.
I think that people, it's like players, parents get mad at coaches because their kid's not playing, whether it's in college or high school or whatever. We've said this before. We've asked coaches this before. If you have a player that's better than somebody else, is he going to play unless there's something about an attitude that creates him not playing? You're going to play who's going to help you win, because you get paid and you keep your job by winning. You're going to play who's going to help you win, no matter who it is. And there have been, I'll tell you this, to the 254, there's obviously history that certain candidates have been bypassed because perhaps they're African American or they are minority, and it's obvious. But Eric Bieniemy right now, to me, there's been 5 jobs now that have been filled, and Houston is also interviewing Leslie Frazier, who's had a history in the NFL, player and coach. I just think that Flores in Miami is having a great run. He's done it. They're not like championship level, but I like what they did with Brian Flores. Eric Bieniemy, Craig, I don't know what it is, but if the Houston Texans don't hire him in the climate we're in today, then Eric Bieniemy's agent needs to figure out what it might be.
Yeah, I mean, and if it comes down to that, here's what I'm saying. I just have the hardest time believing that that's what it is. But I also understand there's not much room being given to possibly think of anything else that it is, because is he a good coach? Yes. Does he run a great offense? Yes. Has he worked with great players? All the things that you would think would check the boxes are there. It appears to us on the outside. So either there is blatant racism going on, which would be just the dumbest act, or there's some box that's not being checked, and what that could be, I don't know. So yeah, I mean, maybe it is racism. I just think that if that's what clubs are operating under, especially at any time, but really especially during this stretch, and that's just beyond the dumbest thing imaginable.
254 on the AD in football, Vince Dooley at Georgia.
Eric Bieniemy is as great as people think he is. How in the world is somebody not going, I'm going to hire that guy? oh, he's black, never mind. Like, I have a hard time believing that, and I know there's precedent for it, but in today's day and age, I just have a really hard time believing if he's that much of a sure thing that the only reason why he's not is because he's a black head coach. And maybe I'm wrong, but, I mean, I'm trying to figure it out along with everybody else.
If 6 openings happen and he was one of the hot names and 6 jobs are open and he does get an interview or 2, and he doesn't get a job, it might be something that he needs to do better or something that he has to get better at. But I'm stunned. I'm surprised that I thought he would be like someone that stamped that.
It doesn't make sense.
Yeah,
it doesn't make any sense. We'll all agree on that. But we're all stumped as to the reasons why, and there's like 2 options. It's either racism or it is some box that's unchecked. And I hope it's a box that's unchecked.
Yeah. All right, when we come back, Mickey Spagnola, we'll ask Mickey what he might think about it as well. And, of course, also some of the changes with the Cowboys coaching staff. At 5 o'clock, we'll talk to Steve Underwood. He was for 40 years an executive with the Houston Oilers and also the Tennessee Titans. He knows Dennis Polian, who was hired by Baylor as a part of their football staff as the chief of staff replacing Austin Thomas, and also a lot of things about the NFL in general. We'll ask him about it. I mean, there's somebody that's a part of a lot of those decisions or has been. And also Dave Aranda, 5:30. This is SicEm365 Radio. You know, we've heard from Chancey Stuckey about how he's a coffee drinker, aficionado, whatever that word you mentioned, Paul. But was another place that you could go, but not just ones that serve coffee, but where you get your own coffee beans, get the flavor and the aromas that you want. And that's at Don Humidor and Coffee Beans in the Town West Shopping Center off Valley Mills in Waco. Don Humidor with Carol and Ashley, tell them Smokey sent you. And then also a 48-foot walk-in humidor with some of the great brands of cigars around the world. From Cohiba to Ashton to Macanudo to Arturo Fuente. And they have those cigars inside that 48-foot walk-in humidor. And if you're somebody that maybe smokes a pipe, they have pipe supply and also pipes for you as well. And if you do smoke cigars, there's things you need to smoke the cigar. Not just the cigar, but a cutter to cut it. Torch lighter to light it, and even humidors to put them in for the cigars you have not yet smoked, but you will down the road. It's Don Humidor and Coffee Beans in the Town West Shopping Center off Valley Mills in Waco.
With more than 160,000 alumni worldwide and counting, the Baylor family is growing. And through the university's expanded Baylor alumni program, the family is growing closer. With hundreds of local volunteers planning events in cities and towns around the country, you can gather with fellow Bears no matter where you are. So, get connected, get something started, get involved, and make plans to get together with Baylor alumni. Visit us at baylor.edu/alumni.
One size fits all. That may be all right for an adjustable belt or cheap sunglasses, but when it comes to your financial needs, no one wants a one-size-fits-all strategy. Ben Erlinson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, knows that his most important goals are yours. That's why he takes the time to understand your needs, knowing you. That's how Edward Jones makes sense of investing. Ben Erlinson, 100 North 6th Street in Waco, 254-759-8533. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Learning to navigate life in the COVID-19 world has been a struggle, and where and how to get tested has been one of the biggest challenges. Impact Health Labs has your answer. If you need mass testing for your office, church, dormitory, or school, Impact Health Labs is who to call. They will come to you, conduct the testing at your location, and have the test back within 24 hours. Most major insurance accepted, meaning your out-of-pocket cost is low. So no more waiting by the phone for days to find out the results. Impact Health Labs was founded by 3 Army licensed and credentialed medical professionals. They believe in accuracy, efficiency, and doing the job right. Call 254-744-6233 to set up your group screening today. Impact Health Labs, on-site, prompt, and accurate, taking COVID-19 head-on. Again, that number is 254-744-6233 or online at impacthealthlabs.com.
What you do in privacy is your own business. What you do in public with your truck, well, that's our business at Pickup Outfitters. In your garage, it's okay for your truck to parade around in the nude with no accessories. Hey, this is still America. But when you bring your truck out in public, it's just common decency to put an outfit on your truck. And that's where we come in at Pickup Outfitters. Put a cover on that bed. Cover your rear end with a bumper and a hitch, for goodness sakes. There are women and children on the roads. And guys, don't leave your tools exposed. Put them in a toolbox. Be proud of your truck and stand tall with a lift kit. Or improve your truck's posture with a leveling kit. Add some class to your pickup with new wheels and tires. Or dress up for a date with your new RV or boat with a fifth wheel or a receiver hitch. At Pickup Outfitters, we're dedicating to making the roads decent for all Central Texans. So when taking your truck out in public, remember your manners and accessorize it properly with an outfit from Pickup Outfitters. 220 Lake Air Drive in Waco.
Waco's newest gym, Halo Athletic Center, 5725 Bagby Avenue, right behind Region 12 and across the highway from the Central Texas Marketplace, where motivation, inspiration, and hard work are the driving force. State-of-the-art equipment, indoor and outdoor track, locker rooms, showers, yoga and bar classes by Duality Yoga, Bod Pod potty composition analysis, and registered dietitians, all under one roof, where we rise above. Come join the Halo Athletic Center and be a part of the change, your change.
Sliding, throwing, touchdown Dallas! C.D. Lamb.
Welcome back to SicEm365 Radio. It's time for our weekly segment with Mickey Spagnola of DallasCowboys.com. Brought to you by the First National Bank of Central Texas, with 5 locations to serve you.
All right, 4:32 is the time on SicEm365 Radio. We'll be joined by Mickey Spagnola, DallasCowboys.com in a moment. Craig Smoak, Paul Catalina. I'm David Smoak, along with Armstrong and Jack and Connor as well. Here on 101 Elm Street, Mickey now joins us on SicEm365 Radio. So, Mickey, Dan Quinn, we knew that the last time we spoke with you, and now he's filling out his staff as well. Is anything? I think even they have the strength and conditioning coach because of the tragic loss of Marcus Paul filled as well. Anything missing on staff right now?
They filled 3. I'm not sure. I mean, they may add somebody, linebacker coach. I don't know how many changes they will make at that point. And I'll be interesting to see with the addition of the defensive line coach, that if he's really the defensive line coach or if Dan Quinn's going to do like Marinelli did. You remember Marinella was the defensive coordinator, but he also took care of the defensive line. And this guy that they hired, Aiden Durd, is pretty young. He doesn't have that much experience. So I'm wondering if he's a guy that's just kind of a Dan Quinn guy that can help out, but that Dan Quinn would, emphasize his coaching on the defensive line. But other than that, I think with Kellen Moore looking like he's going to be back after it looks like the Eagles are going a different direction for their head coaching job. It looks like they're probably pretty set at what they'll be doing going forward. But as I put it out in my notes column yesterday, I just don't think it's surprising that there's going to be so many changes on a defensive staff that basically took the defense from the year before with almost the same personnel, not exactly the same, that finished 9th overall, that fell to 23rd, that finished 11th against the run, that finished the 31st. So I think there's some culpability in what was going on with that defensive staff. I think the interesting thing would be if George Edwards, he's being interviewed for the defensive coordinator job with the Bears, if he is not hired there, that he comes back and he's probably takes over more of the duties of the linebackers coach.
Mickey, what about Sean Lee coming right into coaching if he does in fact retire, which I know a lot of people expect?
Yeah, I just don't know. It sometimes it's pretty. I mean, he's already been coaching the team, right? The linebackers already. I just don't know if that's what he wants to do. You know, we just assume that these players that look like they're pretty good coaches would be coaches they want to coach. You got to remember, there's one thing to show up for work at 7:30 and leave at 4. There's another thing to show up at 6 and leave at 11 o'clock at night. So you have to kind of decide, is this what I really want to do? Now, I think at some point he might, but I don't know that he just says, yeah, I want to do this. But if he does, hire him tomorrow.
Mickey, what do you think of Nick Sirianni as the new Eagles head coach? And obviously that eliminates Kellen Moore from that potential position. But what are your thoughts on that move by Philadelphia?
I have no idea who he is.
That says a lot.
You know what? And if you ask me about the other guys that have been named head coaches, I have no idea who they are. You know, the NFL, these owners, I think they have a difficulty hiring head coaches. And just because you're a good coordinator doesn't mean you're going to be a good head coach. But that's what they do. They hire coordinators to become head coaches. And if you look at what's been going on, I think there's, six this year, 7?
6.
5 last year. Okay. And 5 last year. And if you go back to 2019, I think there was another 6 or 7. So they're going through, I think I figured out since 2018 that there's been 27 head coaches hired. Think about that. The turnover. And some of those, and that doesn't mean 2017, because some of those teams have turned over twice already. So I just feel sorry for these guys because it's very hard to figure out who's going to be a good head coach. That's why I think Detroit, that was a bold move, hiring Dan Campbell. He wasn't a coordinator. At one time, he was interim head coach in Miami after the guy got fired that he was working for. But maybe he is more of a CEO type guy. And you know, it's one thing to be in the room in front of one group. Now you're in the room in front of the entire group. And sometimes it doesn't work out so well. And the other thing, I think these guys that were coordinators make the mistake is the reason they got hired is because they were a good coordinator. Then they become the head coach, and then they hire somebody to coordinate the job that their expertise was in. So I think, you know, if I was the offensive coordinator and I got hired to be the head coach, I'm telling them I'm the head coach and I'm the offensive coordinator.
So what's going on, do you think, with Eric Bieniemy? I just reading a story here, Alex Smith, Washington quarterback, saying that he doesn't understand it, ridiculous. We hear some of the reasons, or we hear of what could be some of the reasons because there's, 3 or 4 black head coaches in the NFL. What do you think is the deal? Have you heard anything at all of why he continues to not either get opportunities or gets passed by?
Do people that are hiring think he's really coordinating the Kansas City offense, or is it Andy Reid? Does he have a title? But you know, it was sort of like, remember when Bill Parcells was here and he had all these pass game coordinators and run game coordinators, and he basically was calling the plays. So is Eric Bieniemy calling the plays in Kansas City, or is it Andy Reid? And I think maybe some folks think, well, maybe it's not that quite, you know, cut and dried. You know, think about what's happened in New England, you know, with Belichick. I mean, you had to think he was coordinating the defense, right? But he's had defensive coordinators get hired to be head coaches, and they failed. So were they really coordinating the defense, or were they the secretary and Belichick was coordinating defense? So I think when you're hiring these coordinators, you have to have some sense of, it was actually their job. They weren't just there in title only. And maybe he is. I don't know. I have no idea. But all I know is when I watch the Kansas City Chiefs play, Andy Reid's got the call sheet in front of him, and it looks like he's talking on the headset, sending in plays.
Sometimes names of what you do on a team, college football can do this, the associate head coach, or, you know, a passing game coordinator. Isn't that sometimes another way just to pay somebody more money?
And sometimes it is. You know, I was thinking when I mentioned Belichick, you know, Matt Patricia, he was the defensive coordinator, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, was he? Because he certainly didn't coordinate a very good defense when he got to Detroit, end up losing the job. So yeah, you got to be careful these titles. I think sometimes you need to have intimate knowledge of exactly what these guys are doing. And I'm not trying to disparage Eric Bieniemy, and I don't know how well he interviews or anything like that. And again, the other question is, when you interview for a head coach, you better walk in there and tell them, here's my idea of a staff. These are the guys I want to hire. You better know that, because it's one thing to get the job, but now do you know enough people to bring in as a staff? And I was just reading something about Dan Campbell, that before he had the interview in Detroit, he had evidently written some sort of, I don't know if it was a paper or what, his philosophy on coaching, his philosophy on football, and he sent it to the lady owner before he showed up. And her remark was, when I read this, I thought I was reading exactly what I was looking for in a head coach. So, and I remember when Jack Del Rio got the head coaching job in Jacksonville, and he had never been a head coach before. He was a defensive coordinator. And when he talked to whoever was the head coach at that time with him when he was the defensive coordinator, I think it was in Baltimore, they kind of told him, you show up and you may not get this job because you don't have much experience, but go in there because this is good practice and act like you're going to get the job. Well, he showed up with some sort of some kind of computer program thing to show his whole plan on, if I'm the head coach, here's what I'm doing, here's what I'm hiring. And they were so impressed they hired him. They didn't intend to hire him, but he killed him in the interview. So a lot of times the interview has a lot to do with if you get the job or not if you're black, white, yellow, green, whatever. It has to do with how well you handle the interview.
Mike McCarthy was hired by Dallas for what? Was it his resume, his offensive ability to call plays? Because they already had Kellen Moore and they were going to keep him. So what was the 1 or 2, 3 characteristics of why he was hired by Dallas?
I think because he had head coaching experience. I don't think they wanted to go from having a head coach with 9 years of head coaching experience to having a guy that was going to practice being a head coach on their dime, meaning never had been a head coach before. What the Cowboys were looking for, and I'm convinced, is a guy that had head coaching experience in the NFL, and on top of that, might have had some success. Because I'm always scared of retread head coaches, like guys that have been out for 3, 4, 5 years, and then all of a sudden they reemerge and they want to be the head coach. And what I worry about if you hire somebody like that is they've been out of the game so long, they might have forgotten how hard they had to work to be successful as a head coach. And so what the Cowboys were looking for, I mean, McCarthy had only been out a year, but he had success as a head coach, and he had the experience of being a head coach. It wasn't like hiring a coordinator and say, okay, see if you can be a head coach. I want to see some proof. And I think that's what McCarthy had for him, and why they kind of knew what they were going to do. Not like, what is Philadelphia? Were they on their 12th interview?
Yeah.
I mean, think about it. If I'm in charge and I fire my head coach, I want to have a good idea of what I want to do. I don't want this all comers meet, right? Let me talk to a dozen guys and I'm going to pick one. Or am I just waiting to somebody to knock my socks off? I think I should have a pretty good idea. Otherwise, you may end up with worse than what you had in the first place.
Yeah, that's a lot of people to put in a group text to say you're not getting the job.
Yeah.
Well,
it's just. I almost feel sorry for these owners because it's certainly not an exact science. Sometimes you hit, and then if you hit with one guy, like, do you remember Wade Phillips' line about McVay? When guys that were working for him were getting hired as head coaches, he came out and said, well, my son he knows McVay, and it was a joke, but he was saying, if you had association with a head coach that was successful, then I'm going to hire that guy because he's been around success.
Mickey, anything else, Craig? Paul? Thank you, Mickey. Your thoughts about the championship games, Packers hosting Tom Brady. What an incredible story again with him as he's taken the Bucs. And, yeah, there's others who are doing it as well, but he has looked really sharp the last several weeks after middle of the year, a little bit, some bumps and bruises. Your thoughts about that game, and then, of course, the Bills and how good they look against Kansas City. And we all know Mahomes is going to play. We just don't know how effectively he'll be.
Yeah, and we think he's going to play, but he's still not out of the concussion protocol, right? And I would imagine today and tomorrow are going to be very significant because you've got to prove that you can do strenuous physical activity 2 days in a row without coming back with any symptoms. And so I think I saw something that said he was limited again today, but he's still in the protocol. So it'll be interesting to see what happens there. If he plays, I think Kansas City's probably got a pretty good chance of winning that game. But if not, I'm all in on Buffalo. I just liked the way they were playing down the stretch. They weren't just getting by. They were beating people. And so I kind of like them if Mahomes doesn't play. And then I just kind of worry about the Tampa Bay defense. Was it for real against New Orleans? Because I don't know that defense can go up to Green Bay and do that again. I think Saints had some problems, some injury problems. Michael Thomas disappeared. I mean, he was hurt. He needs surgeries. And they really didn't have a wide receiver that could step up and help Drew Brees, who couldn't get the ball down the field. So I would lean towards the Packers, and not because they're at home, because it's not much of a home field advantage. And I don't want to hear about weather because Tom Brady's been playing in weather for 20 years, right? So that's kind of the way I'm sort of leaning on the games. But you know what it made me think of, David? And I'm going to write about it tomorrow in my column on DallasCowboys.com. You remember the 93 NFC title game when Troy Aikman had the concussion?
Yep.
In the third quarter, and he didn't know who won the Super Bowl the year before. He didn't know where that year's Super Bowl was going to be. Remember what his answer was? Henrietta. When they asked him, where's this year's Super Bowl, and he mentioned his hometown in Oklahoma.
Oh, my God.
He was so far out of it. And I heard an interview with him this week, Tuesday, on the ticket, and they were asking him about that. And he was thinking back, and he said, you know what? That concussion I suffered in the NFC title game was the worst one I had. And he went on to say, if it was by today's rules, he goes, I don't think they would have allowed me to play. Yet he played. He was back in practice on Wednesday and played decently, and the Cowboys won that game. But I went back and looked at some of that stuff. He claimed, and remember, it was only 1 week between games. It wasn't the 2-week thing. And when he got there on Monday, he couldn't remember anything about the NFC title game. And as a matter of fact, I read where the next day he pointed out that on Tuesday he went back and watched the game. And he said this week that he still doesn't have much of a memory of that NFC title game. That's how bad his concussion was.
Was that
so
Jimmy?
When it happened to, no. Yeah, it was Jimmy was there. That was the back-to-back.
Was that when he put in the night before in the Dallas Morning News or wherever it was in 3-inch headlines or whatever you could put it in 3-inch or 6-inch headlines? We'll beat San Francisco, because the year before they had won at Candlestick.
Right, and this time it was Thursday night on Randy Galloway's radio show, and I think Jimmy might have had a Heineken or four before he went on.
No,
and he said, and I went back and looked it up, and he said, "We will win the game," and you could put it in 3-inch letters.
Yep,
and they did. But he also went on to say he kind of walked back a little bit, and he said, this will be a pretty tight game for 3 quarters, but in the last one, we'll wear them out. So I can remember the Friday press conference. Remember they used to do the Friday press conference with the 2 coaches, And San Francisco, who was head coach at that time with the 49ers?
Seifert?
Seifert. They asked Seifert about it. He goes, well, I don't know, but I think he's got a couple of brass ones.
There you go. Yeah, he did. Mickey, thank you very much. We appreciate it. Appreciate your time.
Okay.
Mickey Spagnola with us, DallasCowboys.com. We're going to keep it here for a few minutes. Brett Favre, by the way, on Patrick Mahomes, be careful. He said he knows that Mahomes wants to play. Favre said he spent most of his career in an era before the NFL took concussions seriously, obviously. For him, whether to play or not play due to a head injury was never a question. I played it in 321 straight games. It goes against everything I stood for when I played. But you got to be smart. I was never faced with a decision that he potentially will face this week, and ultimately the decision may fall on the doctors. And if they choose that he doesn't play, then it's the right move because of the long-term damage. So that's from Brett Favre, who now I think, is 51 years old. And
well, if anybody would know, it'd be him.
Yeah. And Aikman, of course, was knocked out of the game. Eventually, LeVar Arrington on that hit near the sideline that was concussions with him as well.
Yeah, I'm
Steve Young.
Assuming Patrick Mahomes plays this weekend, all signs point to that. And, I think people are probably careful about concussions, but you do wonder in a situation like this, if he's like even borderline, if it's even a close call, like what direction do they go? And I think everybody would probably assume that they're playing him. So, hopefully he's okay. Hopefully there's not anything lingering. And that way, if he takes a big hit this weekend, it's not like compounding, something previously. But, it is pro sports and it is, the game of football. And this is one of those risks. And at the same time, if this was week 3, he's probably not playing. But it's not week 3. It's the championship game. The trip to the Super Bowl's on the line. So I fully assume he'll be out there. And just for Kansas City fans, I guess they, fingers crossed, hope he doesn't take too many hits.
That's a drop-off between him and Chad Henne.
Oh, yeah,
it's a drop.
Just a little.
It's precipitous.
You can feel the air getting sucked out of Arrowhead.
Yeah, and especially when Henne threw that pick, you think, oh, man, here they go, because – the Browns can come back and at least tie the game or take the lead or whatever. And, the nerve-wracking thing. And all Henne had to do was get one first down late in the game. And so thank God for Chiefs fans that he did that. Or we've got the Browns and the Bills in the AFC Championship game, and it might be the apocalypse.
Yeah,
I think it would have been awesome.
Yeah, it would have been great.
I want to read a quote from Alex Smith. I sent this on to 254, who's been back and forth with us about Eric Bieniemy. This is from Alex Smith, who was there when Bieniemy was early on in Kansas City. I think Eric's number one quality, and it was apparent from the first day I met him, was his leadership. Leadership ability, a true leader of men. He was a guy that had played for a long time. He was a great teacher, commanded respect because he gave respect as well. So that was a question. That's from Alex Smith, who's now, of course, longtime quarterback of the Washington Football Club.
Yeah, that's great. That's really nice he said that. I don't think anybody's doubting that Eric Bieniemy's a really good coach. I'm certainly not. I'm not even making the only thing I'm saying on the Eric Bieniemy thing is I would just hope and I would think that it's not all racially related. Now, if that's your argument, that's the argument you want to have, I'm not really going to argue that because neither of us really know that. So if that's the reason why, it's despicable and it's unfortunate. I'm hoping that that's not the reason why. And I would think in today's day and age that there has to be more of a reason than just simply that. Because if that ever was discovered, you talk about...
Oh, my God.
That, if it ever discovered an owner's like, yeah, I know he's super qualified, but he's also black, so we can't hire... and the thing is he's so good, right? He's so good. The Chiefs are in this position. How is he not getting hired? So... Again, totally understand where people are coming from. There's not a long list of reasons for why he shouldn't be a head coach. There's more of a reason for why he should. So, again, it's either racism, which I would hope is not the case, but I know still exists. We haven't magically stomped it out. And or it is just, again, something that's missing. And I don't know. A
couple of things to pass along. The Trust the Podcast is up on the premium section with Craig and also Grayson. That's up. From anything of James Sylvester transferring to Carmelo Jones committing to thoughts about Mateos, Grimes, Stuckey, and Aranda. Dave Aranda at 5:30, plus men's and women's basketball, and the ever-famous mailbag from those who are a part of the premium section as well. Now, when you think of the 5 greatest African-American head football coaches in the NFL, Tony Dungy, Mike Tomlin, Art Shell.
Yeah, Art Shell had a good run.
Dennis Green.
And Lovie Smith.
And Lovie Smith. The thing about Lovie Smith, and yes, I'm absolutely, I'm a fan of his. They fired him at Chicago after a 10-6 year, and he had taken him, of course, lost in the Super Bowl, and they had some ups and downs. They've never matched that since. What was their record this year? Did they get in the playoffs this year? Chicago got in there?
Yeah.
But they weren't, were they 10-6?
No.
I don't think they've reached. Now, I like what they're doing in Chicago. I don't know what they're going to do with quarterback position.
They've never known.
No. But
finish this sentence.
Who did he win? Who did Lovie Smith go to the Bears with?
Sid Luckman's the last.
No, who did Lovie Smith take to the Super Bowl?
Rex Grossman.
Rex Grossman. Yeah. I mean, Jim McMahon was really good. Perfect fit for Ditka and those teams in the 80s, 85 team. But they just really have struggled.
But is Sid Luckman the only Hall of Fame type quarterback the Bears have ever had? All the rest of their quarterbacks are guys that were good for a little bit like McMahon, but not Hall of Famers.
You're too young to throw in the name of Sid Luckman. That's my job.
But my point of that is that's how long it's been.
I don't know.
I'm
trying to think myself. Who were the quarterbacks in the 60s? They've had just a bunch of goo, right?
I mean, it's,
there's got to be somebody in there. I don't know.
Mike Tomczak. That's who they've got. I mean, the guys like that, it's, and then you look now, I mean, they're they spent time this year debating between Trubisky and Foles. We can ask Steve Underwood about all these things, our next guest, because he's a longtime NFL exec. But the Bears quarterbacks, I mean, Jim Harbaugh was okay for a little while, but, not a Hall of Famer.
Yeah, this is littered with a bunch of average guys. McMahon was there for nearly a decade and did a pretty good job. But other than that, it's been just one name after another. Craig Krenzel, Kyle Orton, Rex Grossman.
They had a long time with Cutler, but
All right. Okay. Now, on the text line, the 936, Mickey made the comment, do you want to teach a guy to be a head coach on your dime? Has Bieniemy been a head coach at any level? No, he was a hell of a running back with Colorado. And then he's been a part of some staffs, but he has not been a head coach. And then again, Mike Tomlin was never a head coach before he took the job in Pittsburgh. Lovie Smith was a coordinator throughout his entire career until he got the head coaching job with Chicago. Tony Dungy had been a head coach. No, he had not been a head coach until he got the job in Tampa. Am I right? He was a coordinator with the Steelers.
Yeah.
And Minnesota. Mm-hmm. And then also...
somebody has to give you a shot.
Someone
eventually.
has to be. Mike McCarthy was a coordinator in San Francisco, then Green Bay? Is that right?
Look,
you always...
I mean, Mickey saying that, I guess it's because they let Jason Garrett learn to be a head coach on their dime, and it didn't work out, so they wanted somebody to step in.
He was the chosen one.
Yeah, and
that was just a matter as imminent.
Look, the Dave Campo didn't learn to be a head coach on their dime. Chan Gailey didn't learn to be a head coach on their dime. And so the other guys that they've had,
he did make a point though, and I'm not saying I agree with him, but again, he made the point about who's calling the plays. All that doesn't mean he can't be a head coach because of all the things that Alex Smith just said, who would like to see Eric Bieniemy be a head coach, and obviously Alex Smith is a fan of his. That doesn't mean he's going to be that way, but Andy Reid's calling the plays. That doesn't mean Bieniemy's not a major part of that, but Andy Reid's the guy. He's the straw that stirs that coaching drink, no question about it. All right, when we come back, we'll hear from Steve Underwood. He was 40 years in the NFL, just recently retired as the president of the Tennessee Titans. He knew Dennis Polian a few years back when he spent 5 years there. Obviously knows Hall of Famer Bill Polian. His thoughts about the NFL. We'll discuss this with him as well. And Dennis Polian, now part of the Baylor staff in football. This is SicEm365 Radio.
Brotherwell Brewing tonight. They've got trivia. Check it out on their Facebook page or Instagram. if you reserve a table if you can, because again, they only have limited space due to COVID-19 restrictions. It's a blast for trivia. I hosted a couple weeks ago. I'll be back to host again sometime in the near future. I love it. It was great. They're fantastic guys. They do a great job at Brotherwell, and some fantastic craft beer. If you've not had it and you're a fan of craft beer, and craft beer made here locally by Wacoans, that's delicious. And whatever kind of beer you're into, they've got something that'll match your taste. So for more information, trivia, or just to get beer, check out their website, brotherwell.com, or stop by the brewery at 400 East Bridge Street, 2 blocks away from us.
With so many companies and policies out there, it gets so confusing shopping for insurance, and I never know if I'm getting the policy that's right for me. Luckily, I met the team at the Niche Group Insurance Agency. With the Niche Group, you can go to one company and get access to coverage options from many insurance carriers, and you get to speak to a real person about your specific coverage needs. With the Niche Group, I know I'm getting the right coverage at the right price. If you need insurance, talk to the experts at the Niche Group at 1-800-258-8302.
Bird Culchin Ford has been in Waco since 1936. Ford, the #1 selling truck in Texas, 43 years running. And Bird Culchin Ford proudly supports high school football in Central Texas. And no better way to tailgate with a Ford than from Bird Culchin Ford. And are there better vehicles to tailgate with than the Ford F-150 or the Ford Expedition? And of course, you can get them new, pre-owned Bird Culchin Ford. Our sponsor of the Ford Tough Player of the Week, locally owned dealership, online at bkford.com at 1701 West Loop 340 in Waco. Bird Culchin Ford.
Did you know that 1 out of every 4 men have symptomatic low levels of testosterone and don't even know it? And if you think you're too young to worry about it, guess again. Low T levels can make you feel tired and grumpy, cause weight gain, and wreak havoc on your sexual desire and performance. Petty Clinic Low T can set up same-day blood screening and results, so if you're tired of being tired, I challenge you to man up and Google search Low T Waco or go online pettycliniclowt.com. It's a private clinic with an atmosphere catering to men. Affordable, only $150 a month, includes lab work, office consultation, testosterone injections, follow-up visits compared to $395 a month in Dallas or Austin, and you don't have to fight the traffic. Petty Clinic Low T as board-certified physician consultations will provide the best form of brand-strength testosterone available. Contact Petty Clinic Low T today, just off Highway 84 and Old Hewitt Drive in Woodway. Petty Clinic Low T, helping men become the high-performance men they deserve to be. PettyClinicLowT.com or Google search Low T Waco.
Let Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be part of the Waco community. We're a small family business here in Central Texas. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important. And unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. And that's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through this difficult time. So if you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. You can schedule online in minutes at idealmri.com or call 833-IDEAL-MRI.
Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physician of Baylor Athletics. Our doctors specialize in the diagnosis and treatment of any and all sports-related injuries. Celebrating over a decade of service in Central Texas, our doctors are equipped to handle a wide range of issues, whether it's your foot or ankle, orthopedic spine care, your hand or wrist, knee and shoulder pain, or if you're in need of our arthritis or total joint clinic. Come see us at the new Baylor Scott and White Ted and Sue Getterman Sports and Orthopedic Center. Trusted doctors at Baylor Trust, Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics. Our goal is to get you back in the game.
Welcome back to SicEm365 Radio.
That one picked off, and it's a pick six by Jalen Petrie.
The 5 o'clock hour is brought to you by Edward Jones and financial advisor Cam Heathcott. Edward Jones, making sense of investing.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
I wish I could find out who sent me a little nugget yesterday. They asked me when we had Mac Rhodes on the show yesterday, Baylor's director of athletics, about if I could ask him about Dennis Polian. And I didn't quite at the time understand, so I Googled and I saw under the staff directory of Baylor that Dennis Polian was listed, but it had not been announced yet by Baylor. He is now the senior associate AD football chief of staff at Baylor under Dave Aranda, the head football coach, who will join us today at 5:30. So started looking around. John McClain, who was on with us yesterday, longtime Hall of Fame writer in Houston, he knows Steve Underwood, who 40 years has been an executive, including recently and for a long time the president of the Tennessee Titans, where Dennis Polian once worked for 5 years. And Steve Underwood, a Texas grad, a daughter that went to Baylor, who knows the Polian family, joins us now on SicEm365 Radio. I think I tied all the knots on that. Did I not, Steve?
You hit all the bases.
Well, you and I spoke for quite some time yesterday and enjoyed the conversation, and we appreciate you being a part of the show. Now, I know that Dennis Polian was in the executive, the personnel part of it. You're in the executive part of it, but he was there for quite some time. What do you recall about Dennis Polian?
Well, I'm going to answer your question. First, I'd like to congratulate Dennis for landing the job at so prestigious an athletic department. And also congratulate the university for picking someone who is as qualified and experienced as Dennis is. Dennis worked really he started in 2012 as our head coach's assistant. That would have been Mike Munchak. A lot of the head coaches in the league have kind of a Guy Friday around who helps them with calendar, scheduling, all the personnel issues. You know, the coaching staffs in the NFL have gotten 24, 25, 26 people. And there's also all of the other subordinate departments. And video, for example, medical care, training, equipment, all of those things have to be sort of overseen by the general manager and the head coach. And that's where Dennis started with us. Then after a couple of years, he moved from being the head coach's assistant to working in our player personnel area, mostly with one of our other vice presidents, a guy named Ben Marino, who worked on our salary cap and player contract negotiations. So Dennis was, I think, kind of pleased to make the change because he wanted to get into that side of our business. And if you've looked him up, know this already. Dennis is coming to Baylor with a wealth of other experience outside the NFL. Nothing wrong with the NFL experience, but he's worked on the business side in a couple of major college athletic programs. He's worked in the Canadian Football League, worked for 2 other NFL teams, worked in the Arena League. And after 20 years, he has amassed what I would consider to be a very favorable resume. So the athletic director at Baylor is getting someone who's hardworking, personable, can be diplomatic, he has mentor and teacher qualities. And I'm sure Dennis can be tough when he has to be, but it's always going to be business-like. And so I think both sides are ending up in a great place.
How important is it for college teams now, given the fact that personnel is going to flip around with the transfer portal, to get maybe people that know how to kind of manage an organization, so to speak, like they do in the professional ranks?
Oh, I think it's going to be essential because college players, nobody's going to use this expression, I guess, but college players in many ways are becoming free agents on their own. And I'm not making an editorial comment about it. I don't know whether that's good or bad, but having someone like Dennis, who has worked at all those different levels, seeing free agency, if you will, at the professional level, and has all of the other calling cards that you need to be successful, it's just a huge skill set that the university is acquiring. He's a very complete, comprehensive sort of asset for the athletic director and all of the departments in the athletics. I'm proud for him and proud for Baylor.
You told me, and you kind of mentioned this a minute ago in your opening comments, is that you said, I don't really know who the athletic director or don't know that much about the athletic director at Baylor, Mac Rhodes, but you said he made one hell of a hire.
He did. I have since read the statement that's on Baylor's athletics website about him. You know, he's a very accomplished guy. And I just point this out for what it's worth. It may not be worth anything. He also attended the University of Arizona, where he got his first degree, and that's where Dennis is coming from. So he had, I have to believe, lots of contacts at Arizona that could offer him inside information about Dennis. And then Dennis also has his own resume that includes all the other stops that he's made. So, but he's got, I mean, Mac Rhodes has got a very impressive set of credentials. I know a little bit about the college athletics business, but he's been successful everywhere he's been.
We've been, to shift gears a little bit, we've been talking about a lot of NFL topics on the show today, and we really wanted to get your insight on them, seeing as your long career there. Eric Bieniemy is the one that we talked about a lot. Why, in your estimation, has it not been his time as a head coach yet?
You know, there's so many things that go into hiring a head coach in the NFL. I've been involved in that process maybe 4 or 5 different times. And, you know, what I would always do is put together a list, as comprehensive a list of candidates as I could. Sometimes the initial list would be 50, 60, 70 people, and then go through it. I'm not sure what the holdup with him is, because he's certainly due a turn as far as I'm concerned. He's been, very successful as a coordinator, great player. He's got a lot of calling cards, but why people do not get interviews and do not get hired for general manager and head coaching positions in the NFL has always been somewhat mysterious to me. The Rooney Rule helps; it's important, and if people do it in good faith, they end up with some great coaches over time. But every year when there's head coaching changes in the NFL, there are people that are qualified that get left out of the process, or at least don't get hired as head coach. In his case, I don't know. I'd be surprised if it has anything to do with race, but that's coming from an amateur when it comes to what general managers and owners look for. And I have to believe there are a lot of people that would look at it differently.
You've seen a lot of things change over the years, including where you were with Houston and then to Nashville with Tennessee. What was that like, Steve, during that time when, we've seen Cleveland and Baltimore and others have to deal with teams picking up and leaving? I can't even imagine. What was that like?
It was nightmarish if you were me, because I was involved not only. Stop and think about this. We played in 4 different stadiums over a 4-year period. That meant you need 4 stadium leases. You had to negotiate with 4 separate stadium authorities. It was, we made a stop in Memphis, then we made a stop at Vanderbilt, and then we got into our new building. All that time, the new building is being constructed. We're working on the development agreement and the stadium lease with the Metropolitan Government, Nashville and Davidson County. I have always described it with this phrase: it was the most tumultuous professional sports franchise relocation in the history of professional sports. And I don't think there's very many people that would dispute that. Certainly not that was working for us, because it drove everyone crazy. Plus, we were fighting a lawsuit by the city of Houston and Harris County, Texas, to keep us in Nashville. And it was just kind of one thing after another. My wife and I had 3 very young children, one of whom was a special needs child. And so I had to get her help because I was not home very much. I was either in Memphis or Nashville or traveling back and forth between the 3 cities. And it was a harrowing experience.
I can imagine.
I bet when you finally had everybody's boots on the ground in Nashville, you were just able to breathe for the first time in 4 years.
Well, there were so many things about the startup of the new stadium. That's another kind of whole experience. Someone at Baylor could tell you that, by the way, about their newer stadium. it was a very difficult time for everyone that was involved with the franchise, including our owner, in fairness. But all of our employees were trying to figure out how to operate in two places at once, some cases three places at once. And NFL teams, and the Oilers, our front office staff was tiny. There was me and just a handful of other people, and we all got run ragged for all of that time because, and I don't mean this disrespectfully, all owners are interested in his results, the how to do it, what to do, how did you get there? They're not all that interested in that, and I don't blame them. That's what they are as owners, and they expect results. We ended up in a great place, in a great city, but getting from one place to the other was difficult, doesn't cover it.
One of the things when your name is Polian, then obviously there's a standard that was set because of his father, Bill, his brother, who was graduated from Baylor as a GA at Baylor. Now he's in Notre Dame's a special teams coach as well. How much more difficult in the coaching profession or in that kind of profession is it when you have somebody that's a Hall of Fame father to try to make sure that you are your own man and do it the way you want to do it and not just because your dad's Bill Polian?
It's a great question, and Dennis and I have talked about that in the past. Dennis wanted to blaze his own trail. He didn't want to have to rely on his dad. He wanted to get where he got on merit, on his own merit. And I think he intentionally avoided as many instances as he could of any sort of association with his dad. He wanted to find his own path and do it his way. And I admire that in Dennis because there are people who from time to time try to sort of take advantage of their lineage. And Dennis never did that. He wanted to be respected and hired and kept on board because of his own accomplishments and not to do with his dad. By the way, his dad and I have known one another for decades. And I'm sure Bill is very proud of all of his children and of Dennis and Dennis's resume and accomplishments. He's been successful everywhere he's been, just like his daddy. You
admitted this to me yesterday. You didn't have to admit it to me, but you're a UT guy.
That's right.
But you had a daughter that went to Baylor. Is that correct?
I did. I have two daughters who went to Baylor. My older daughter, Providence, graduated with a degree in elementary education 2 years ago in May, and we're very proud of her and proud that she went to Baylor. What I tell my friends is I wish they would have both gone to the University of Texas, but I would settle for Baylor rather than A&M.
I can imagine that. Now, you mentioned your daughter Providence. Another daughter's name is Liberty. Those are two incredibly unique names. How did you come about that?
Well, for many years, people named their children kind of after things that were important to them. We come from a strong religious background. Providence is a great name, and Liberty is something that all of us value strongly. So having your children named after some of the most important values in your life, I think that's something I'm proud of. And their mother picked the other name, one for her grandmother, so it's Sarah Providence, and the other one after one of her late aunts, Lou. So Liberty Lou Underwood and Sarah Providence Underwood. And both girls have forgiven me for their name.
I like it. I think it's very unique. I like unique names. In the end, and I know that you're kind of separated a little bit from what you were when you were the president, but you're still very much involved. What kind of a challenge was this for the NFL to go through this season, put their head down, and kind of like be that pelican at the end of a deck on a bay or an ocean and just get hammered with the wind and the rain but survive?
I felt so sorry for my colleagues, and still do for that matter. They're still having to endure it. And in the case of Titans, it's a little bit more difficult because they're building a new building that's adjacent to our existing facility, Sun Sports Park. And so they've had to endure moving back and forth across the street to an annex most of the time couldn't come to work at all unless you were directly involved in football operations. So it has worked many, many hardships. And I admire the league for trying to continue to have a season despite the fact that people couldn't come much to stadiums. For our home playoff game a couple of weeks ago, we did have 14 or 15,000 people in the stadium through an agreement with the metropolitan government. But think about it this way, too. All the stadium employees that sell concessions, the ushers, the ticket takers, all of those other jobs, they've been out of work most of the year, both in our shop and at other places. And it's worked a huge hardship on them also.
Mm-hmm.
All the tax revenue that comes from our games and goes into payment of the bonds for the stadium, it's working a hardship on the metropolitan government. So there's so many people who are disaffected by what's happening, to say nothing of all the people that are crowding hospitals and are sick, and many of whom are passing away. It's just a very, very tough and unique time for the National Football League. And I am a huge admirer of our employees and my colleagues who are having to bear the brunt of that difficulty. They have, by the way, have done what I consider to be a miraculous job getting through. We're not done yet. People are still being vaccinated. There's a long way to go. But I do think that there'll be some return to normalcy this coming fall.
And just to end on a lighter note, what your thoughts on the season the Titans had this past year and the job that Coach Vrabel did? I know it didn't end the way they wanted it to, but they are now kind of established as a force to be reckoned with.
Oh gosh, between our quarterback and our running back and all the other great skill position players that we have, they had a great year. Anytime you make the playoffs in our league, that's an accomplishment. In and of itself. I mean, nobody wanted the season to end, but, even in our playoff game against Baltimore, a team that we'd beaten the last two times we played them, we were still in a position to tie or win the game on the last drive. The receiver fell down, the defensive back was right behind him, and so we ended up kind of running out of time, but only lost the game by one score. I'm sure the coaches and the players, for that matter, they're terribly disappointed. But they have nothing to be ashamed of. They did a nice job. It was still a playoff season. We won the division. Another accomplishment that we hadn't pulled off in a long, long time. And beat a bunch of good teams on the way there. I'm very proud of what they did, particularly under the adverse other circumstances that everyone's having to face. But I'm certainly not hanging my head in shame.
No, it was a good run. I like Vrabel. I kind of like what he does as a head coach in the toughness
Mike's
as well.
Doing
Yeah,
he's done a great job. He was a great player himself at the college level, and he gets to have such a great relationship with the GM, which is so critical. Those two get along well, and we'll bounce back and have another great year. Can't say enough about our quarterback. I know he went to A&M. I've forgiven him that. But when he and I first met, it was a great. I thought it was a great meeting. He was working late one evening when I was walking out through our auditorium. There was a computer there that he liked to use to prepare, and I couldn't help going down the stairs and interrupting him. Introduced myself, told him I was president of Titans, and he said, "Yeah, I know who you are." And I said, "By the way, just so you know, I'm a TCF. Just wanted to get that out there." And he said, "Oh gosh, I thought we could have been friends."
There you go. I love it. Dennis Polian was at A&M with Sumlin, right? I mean, you forgave him for that, I guess, huh?
I did. I gave him a hard time about leaving us to go there. I said, Dennis, talk about getting out of the frying pan. You're headed right into the fire.
The grease.
Please don't go there. He did a great job there and was promoted a time or two, just to let you know. And I have been impressed in some ways with the growth of Texas A&M. When I was in school, now this is 50 years ago, guys. I graduated from the university in 1973. But when I started, there were 35,000 students at the university. And the Texas A&M had about half that number, maybe 20,000. Baylor, incidentally, and I had tons of friends who went to Baylor, had 5,000 to 6,000 students, including graduate students. And the growth that's happened in our public and private university systems over the last 50 years, it is phenomenal. Texas A&M has something like 65,000 kids going to school there. It's a shame to see that many lives ruined, but okay. And Baylor has, as I understand it, this year, like 21,000 students, including graduate students.
Yeah, they're blossoming. Yeah.
Oh gosh, it's come a long way. And when my wife and I, when Francis and I would go to visit with the girls when they were matriculating at Baylor, I was so impressed with the growth in Waco generally. It's a much different town than when I would visit my friends there.
You would have no idea how much it's exploded. I mean, it not just because of Chip and Joanna, which, of course, everyone talks about that, Magnolia, and what they do with flipping homes or renovating homes. And now, I mean, it's is unbelievable. First of all, it's a nightmare because I'm 35, but since you were in Austin, I think even back when you were in college, 35 was probably a nightmare. But it is insane in just the 10 years I've been here, the changes in the structure and things are Amazon's coming in. What is it, Paul? Top Golf. I mean, I know that's but it's incredible. Thanks for your time, Steve. It's great reminiscing with you and also learning a little bit more about Dennis Polian.
The honor's been mine, guys.
Thank you. That's former and longtime 40-year NFL executive veteran, president of the Tennessee Titans, retired this past year, Steve Underwood on Dennis Polian and on football in general. When we come back, Baylor head football coach Dave Aranda, SicEm365 Radio.
If you're in the market for a new home or looking to sell the one you have, you need to call my good friend Lance Donaldson and the Donaldson family team, brokered by eXp Realty. Lance is a great dude. He is very passionate about things, and I told him I was going to say this. He and his family just adopted two Chiweenie puppies. That's half Chihuahua, half weenie dog. And he has been very passionate about training those dogs, all that. I mean, and when you see somebody who's passionate about all the things that they do, that's what you want in someone who's going to help you find a home. He's going to be very passionate about helping you find that home, about finding that perfect place for you and your family. You want a realtor who kind of can anticipate your needs before you even know that you have them. That's the kind of guy that Lance is, and he's going to help you find a great home. Go to the website, lancedonaldson.exprealty.com, and you can see all the listings he has, or just give him a call, 254-214-3713. That's 254-214-3713.
With so many companies and policies out there, it gets so confusing shopping for insurance, and I never know if I'm getting the policy that's right for me. Luckily, I met the team at the Niche Group Insurance Agency. With the Niche Group, you can go to one company and get access to coverage options from many insurance carriers, and you get to speak to a real person about your specific coverage needs. With the Niche Group, I know I'm getting the right coverage at the right price. If you need insurance, talk to the experts at the Niche Group at 1-800-258-8302.
It takes time to reach goals. It's a truth that applies to more than sports. It goes for your financial goals as well. You work hard for your money, and you deserve an investment strategy that lines up with your game plan. And Tom Albers, your Edward Jones financial advisor, can help. If your financial investments aren't putting forth the effort you desire, stop by today for a financial review. Tom Albers, 4301 Lakeshore Drive, 254-776-7605. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
You want to know why Stonewood Dental is so successful? Listen to what happy customers have to say.
It's pleasant. It's different than any other dentist office. I really feel like they care. And it's not that you're here for 2 hours waiting on someone to take care of you. It's quick and easy, and I bring my kids, and my kids love being here too. They really love the treasure box. Staff is really nice and accommodating, real friendly. You feel more like home. It's not sterile looking. Everybody has their own personalized rooms with decorations and decor, and they'll even have a blanket for you when it's cold. I've recommended people to actually come here, and they are patients now. I really love it here. It feels like family.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
At Baylor University, students can shine in their own way. Or should we say their own ways? Because there's no limit to the ways Baylor students make the world a brighter place. Whether they're leading a student organization or following a higher calling, getting advice from faculty, or taking part in world-class research, pursuing their dreams, or working toward their dream job, students find their place to shine at Baylor, where lights shine bright.
Learning to navigate life in the COVID-19 world has been a struggle, and where and how to get tested has been one of the biggest challenges. Impact Health Labs has your answer. If you need mass testing for your office, church, dormitory, or school, Impact Health Labs is who to call. They will come to you, conduct the testing at your location, and have the test back within 24 hours. Most major insurance accepted, meaning your out-of-pocket cost is low. So no more waiting by the phone for days to find out the results. Impact Health Labs was founded by 3 Army licensed and credentialed medical professionals. They believe in accuracy, efficiency, and doing the job right. Call 254-744-6233 to set up your group screening today. Impact Health Labs, on-site, prompt, and accurate, taking COVID-19 head-on. Again, that number is 254-744-6233 or online at impacthealthlabs.com.
Welcome back to SicEm365 Radio.
The Sic'em365 Radio app is sponsored by Alan Samuels Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram Fiat in Waco. Your friend in the car business at Loop 340 and east of 84. Come by. Let's be friends.
All right, here we go. This 5 o'clock hour. Tuesday, Chancey Stuckey. Yesterday, Eric Mateos. And right now, we're joined by Baylor head football coach Dave Aranda on Sic'em365 Radio. It's great to talk to you again, Dave. How much has it almost been like, not quite a full reconstruction? You've had to make some staff changes, but it's almost like watching something get renovated in front of you with your staff?
I don't know. I when I'm around the team, when I'm around the players, I see an energy. I see bright eyes. I see looking forward to meeting their coaches, looking forward to going to a workout with Vic Valoria and his staff, and I see just an eagerness, and I see probably a connection that we were all, I think, really fighting for throughout fall. I think as I look back at just last season, there was towards the end, there was a couple times where we had talked about, just being in situations that are tough. You really find out about people, and those, adverse situations kind of really reveals and shows people to be where they're at, and character and all that. And, I tried to be able to make that point. And, I think for a lot of our guys, I think just not having a traditional winter, not having a traditional spring, not having a traditional summer, and everything that kind of went along with that, I think not having that, I think was almost a maybe a non-starter. And so I think I thought it was a struggle to get that across, that, hey man, what's happening right here, you can see who people really are, and you can see who's here for you, who's here trying to help, and all of it. And that, I don't know, I just feel like some of that is settled, and I feel like some of that is connected with some of the time off from last season. And so it feels like that. So it feels like we're tight right now, and we're energized. So I'm excited.
Anytime you start a new job that you've never done before, you learn new things probably rapidly. Do you feel like this year your knowledge quotient kind of got overfilled to the brim as being a head coach for the first time?
Yeah, I think so. I remember there was a time when I was at Cal Lutheran, and this is when I think Tom was there. Tom was playing receiver at this time, and I remember I was a student assistant, but I was coaching a position, and I would be. I would drive to USC. I would drive to UCLA. I would drive to Arizona State. I think I took a week to visit LSU.
during all those times, I remember that our head coach at the time, his name was Scott Squires at Calu. He goes, Dave, you just need to talk to one guy. He goes, you're doing all this stuff. And it's like, it's too much. Dave, just listen to one guy and kind of just, follow him, and, he'll have a program for you. And I'm sure what he's thinking is, where is my linebacker coach going? He's never here and all that. And so I agree, looking back at that sentiment, but I noticed for me, it was like, I couldn't get enough, because it's as if you're in a huge dark room or dark house, and you're turning on one light at a time, and you see this room, and it's pretty cool. You get to learn it, and then you go, oh, well, this room's connected to this other room. Oh, and then, oh, this is an upstairs. Oh, okay. And it's just all of that. And I think just you have to, for you to really know what that one room is and what it can do, you have to know how it fits in the entire house, right? And how it's used and how it's thought of, and just all of it, man. And so I think like that quest to kind of get better and to learn, that never stops. And that just, I think, I don't know, I've always, when I went to go visit LSU, I remember there was a girl that was she was a student assistant trainer, athletic trainer at Cal Lutheran, and she was a GA at LSU. And so I don't remember how I got the money to fly out there, but I flew out there, and I spent the week. By Tuesday, I had no money. And so I was drinking like the water, the spring ball. So I would drink the water out of the hoses, had the different deals. And then I would, I would take their snacks that they gave the players. And so like, that was what I had, but just like visiting with the coaches and just all of it, man, that was just like, that was just how you do it. And so like, I feel like that is where I'm at again. And whether it's coaches on our staff or just coaches I respect that are out, or just, there's so many good things you can get, but really you don't really learn till you go through it. You don't learn till you do it. And I think, just walking around, you just have an idea of who guys are and kind of what time of year this is and what time of day it is. This is what our standard is, and we should be doing this, we should be doing that better. So you just feel more settled, I think, than, just a couple months ago.
Coach, you've had a bevy of players who have announced that they'll be returning to the team next season. Treston Ebner, Terrell Bernard, Tyquan Thornton here recently, Xavier Newman, and I know there's others as well. What were those conversations like with players there at the end of the season? And what do you think it says about the direction the program's going, that guys who have probably more options than ever right now are back in the fold for you next season?
No, it's exciting. I'm happy for them, and I'm excited for them. I think, the relationships that you build throughout, and I think just, when it's hard and there's negativity and there's, I'm sure there's loneliness, and I'm sure that there is, a frustration, a real strong frustration of, just a little. Couple months ago, man, I was here, and now I'm doing this, and so, throughout all of that, I think when you can really see people and really make the attempt to see them is probably the better way of saying it, and then really make the attempt to hear them and really make the attempt to value them and, get to know them, then I think you have the ability to reach them, and I think like, all that was, they, in the process, they could see us too, and see like what's possible, and see like what we're trying to do, and there's no like, armor on, man. It's like, hey, this is like what you see is what you get. This is it. And so I think those are the big. I think that's what happened, and so I'm excited that they're wanting to keep going, because we got big plans for them, and I know all of our coaches have got big plans for them. And just today, just being around them, you could see the excitement in their face. So it fires me up.
Obviously, we want to get into the new staff, which you spoke with the media on Friday during a media session. But in this business, you were at Hawaii and lost a job. People get fired all the time in the coaching business, and right now people get fired in every business. Fans want, like, get rid of him. He's not good enough. Go, and you found people that might take you to the next level. You hope takes you to the next level. How hard is it, Dave, to sit down with a couple of guys that you trusted and they trusted you to tell them that no longer a part of the program?
No, incredibly hard. I mean, yeah, I don't think I didn't eat that day. The day after. I mean, you can't sleep. You can't kind of sit still. You're sick. So yeah, it was really hard. Having all the time is the longest I can ever remember. Just not, there being a football season and then, us not doing football. It's the longest I've ever, so would never want to do that again. And so but it gave you the opportunity to kind of just, you had to walk into, all of the stuff that didn't work, all the stuff that was bad, all the stuff that needs fixing. And so you're just spending your time there the whole time. Typically, all of it, you're in a bowl game and your kids are excited about Christmas and Santa Claus, and you're focused on, man, I got to stop like Lamar Jackson, or we've got to be able to not let, Jalen Hurts run for this or run for that. You're thinking that way, but, you're still preoccupied, unfortunately, as far as your family goes, but it's, how do we fix this, right? What are the options? I'm looking at all of the fault that's my own, and a lot of it's my own.
Mm-hmm.
And I think in talking to all of them, that's what I said. That's the first thing I said, was that, this is where I feel that my fault lies. This is what I didn't do good. And guys, I just happen to be in a seat where it's my fault, but, I'm the one that still stays. And like, all that's hard to say, man, but I think it's important to say because it's the truth, And so I think like with all of those guys, man, you could see them striving to be better people. And that's the thing that hurt the most, is that you could see them really trying to do that. And, I really wished it would have worked out better. You look at the dynamics of just kind of what the job entails and what's, on one end trying, because you look, there's greatness inherent in everybody. And I think it starts there. And so you want to be able to bring or draw that out. People have different ways of doing that. And so you want to be able to draw that out and then get someone to be that best version of them. And so in that respect, I didn't get it done. And so, I told them that. So that was hard to do.
When did you know you were going to make changes?
Probably right before, I think, probably right before it happened. I think you have to look at, I don't know. I've always, there's things you have to study to learn and all this. I haven't had to study much on just studying, that's always kind of come natural. And so I think like going through all of that just took some time, and trying to get different perspectives and, kind of question what you're thinking and question kind of, you have to get emotion out of it and all of it. So it took a little bit.
You and Jeff Grimes obviously had intersected in the past, but Coach, based on the interviews we had talking to people who coached with him or saw him develop, if you hadn't, his resume would have just knocked anybody over. What is it like to bring somebody like that onto your staff?
The first thing I see is just the person that he is, how he treats people. I think it's bigger than football for him. He's a fit here at the school. I think, he's able to connect with guys through, really, really getting to know who they are as a person and really, building relationships. And,
developing our people to get them to be better players. And so I think that jumps off the page. Then I think just the philosophy of we're going to be really good at a few things, which gives you an identity, and we're going to give multiple presentations to those few things. And one of those things happened to be just the wide zone, which I just feel is is needed in this conference. I look at Iowa State. I think, just having gone through the run of the conference, I think that team in particular has really strong identities defensively and offensively. I have a lot of respect for them. They don't try to pretend to be anybody that they're not. They know who they are, and they're pretty good at it. And I think the wide zone is one of their core runs. They had a pretty good O-line and pretty good running back to do it all with, but so do we. And so I think just that having the identity where you can, when you're getting West Virginia in 3-3 stack, and here's a linebacker shooting, here's if you are, do we push the inside zone? Do we thick it? Do we thin it? Hey, we're gonna drop back pass. All right, do we push to this linebacker? Do we slide to that linebacker, or do we just go 5-0 on the center's one-on-one, this nose guard that they got? Just all of that, right? Or Oklahoma and their twists, TCU and their twists. Right? There's just so much, for lack of a better term, to junk up front in this league, more so than any other league. And I think some of it stems from just the developmental approach up front, where you're not really recruiting big to play big. You're recruiting guys that can get big. And so at the different stages that they kind of come to you, there's stunts, twists, and things to kind of mix it up. So they're not always just taking stuff straight on. And so I think that wide zone is a way to clean those streets and create seams, and so it fits this league, and I think it fits an identity, and it gives us a mentality. So Jeff really hit a lot of boxes for us. Excited for that.
Coach, you brought in 3 transfers here over the last few months: Siaki Ika, Grant Miller, also Drew Estrada from the Ivy League. I know you got to be careful about your selection, and you're obviously have certain things you want to see guys fit. So what was it about those guys and your desire to bring them into the fold?
Character, their competitiveness, their toughness, their intelligence. They've got leadership ability, and they're adaptable. So if something's not working the way it's supposed to work, they'll make it work. And so I think just in the process of Apu, I knew and respect very much. His family, his high school, just when you look at a 3-4 defense, I think that's the position. That's where it starts. Is that nose guard position. Is that guy's got to command a double team, and then everything else works, and so I think, he's a game changer for us. He has the ability to be that. He has to work to fully actualize that, but he has that in him. And then, you look at, Drew, and you look at the toughness. He's got a great heart, right? He's got leadership ability. He's competitive as all get out. And so, he can play inside, outside, can return, do things on special teams, play all special teams, just be a selfless player. And so you're excited about that. And then, with our alignment, just the starts he's had, the intelligence he has, you just see him calling out linebackers and IDing people the right way, and his physicality that he has. And, there's a legacy here, and he wants to be here. And so you get to know him, and you can see his toughness, and you can see his intelligence. You can see that he's competitive, and he wants to
fight and compete. So it just fires you up, gets you excited.
I want to ask you this, that when things weren't going well, the losses were mounting, and you then have, we remember the story after the Texas game where a couple of guys get wobbly, 2 leaders. I can imagine that all hell could have been breaking loose, and I'm not using this in terms of military, but bullets flying, so to speak, within the program. How did you keep that from falling apart? Not just with those 2, but you now have not only stabilized it, but a lot of people stayed. That could have been a mass exodus, or it could have been one of those things, especially with it, how easy it is for people to leave.
Yeah, just looking at what's real and looking at just the cause and the effect, like why certain things are happening. Like I know like what's happening, but why, and trying to address that. I think, I don't know. I mean, maybe there's certain times where I wish that, I would get upset or I would, show something, I don't know, man. I wish there'd be times where that would come in, you could just call that in, but it's never really been that way. And it's just been different ways of, that there's that energy's there. I guess it's just different ways of funneling it or using it, And so I think like in times like that, we're talking about, it probably was an advantage, because I'm sure people eyes are on you and they're watching and all of it. I'm just thinking about like, hey man, what's the cause? What's the effect? Why is it happening? Let's address it. Let's go to it. And so it's just a lot of work. But, I think now when you look back at that time, I think people could see that, there wasn't a change. People could see that there wasn't anyone, breaking or anyone losing their stuff. It was just someone, trying to be seen so that they can see other people.
So you listen to Tony Dungy?
Yeah, I think that I believe, what he writes in his books, anytime he's on a podcast, I try to listen to him, he and I text back and forth, the times that we talk, I just feel like he gets it. And I think when he talks, he speaks the truth. And I think you have to just be yourself. I think I go back to this year. I think that's really, man, finding your voice, right? You may have known it, but now you know it. And then, learning, right? Admitting your mistakes and growing. And I think those 2 things are the 2 big ones.
Coach, what are your priorities right now? What are like the couple of big things that are directly in front of you that you guys are working on at the moment? What's up next in the process, so to speak?
Our people, I think, getting together with our staff, making sure that guys are meeting guys, that we've got families and we've got there's wives, there's kids, sons and daughters, there's dads and moms, and we want to get to know those people and know and just really see the significance and the importance that they have to our people. And I think that's important. And I think we kind of talked about the why. You want to get to the whys of why we're here, why we're doing this, why Baylor, and like I may know that from just my talks with certain guys, but I think it's important that everybody knows it, and we all see everybody, and we jump on board, and so I think that staff wise, and I think player wise, similar vein. I think I was having a talk with he's actually now the D-line coach at Wisconsin, but Ross Kalaji, who's the strength coach at Wisconsin. This is at the end of the year. And he was just going, Dave, I've never seen just so many guys just struggle, just wanting to play football. We're just trying to hold it together. And I don't want to speak for them, really. I guess I just did. But that helped me, though, to see that, sometimes you get locked in to your own deal. And that just helped me that, man, we just
keep fighting the fight, and I think just when you come on the other end of that, you want to be able to see that, hey, we're starting right now. Let's come together. Let's get everyone to know each other, know who you're fighting for, know what, this is who we are. This is what the fight is about, right? This is us. All those things. I think the more we're around our people, and the more we allot our time to our people, it's probably it is the most important thing. And then we can get to football here in a little bit, but it's getting to know us and establishing standards and expectations among our people.
This is not meant to be a negative question, but as the head coach and you made the decisions at offensive coordinator, eventually it is, and you mentioned it's on you. You got to be careful, right, that you make these right decisions, because if you get too many coordinators out, then there's nothing else left to do except you.
Yeah, I think getting having coaches that see people first and see that that it's kids, right? It's people that are our players, and that it's relationships that have to be built, and that when we build the person, build that relationship, then we can really build a really, really strong player. And I think it's a lot of that is that's leadership for me, and then that's just an alignment with the staff. And I feel we have that. Do you drink coffee? Yes. So you've been in Chancey Stuckey's office, right? He's not hiding that from you, are you? Is he? Yeah, no, he has that. I have not brought this up with him. We have a great little machine right here that I actually take some pride in, and he is very prideful about making his own coffee. So I guess. I think you might have to pull rank. Say, hey, this is.
Yeah, he was telling us about his first trip to Common Grounds and the Brazilian notes and everything else.
The
Ethiopian added notes. Oh my gosh! Yeah.
Just black coffee will do. We're good.
Dave, thank you very much. We appreciated your time Friday with the media session, and we appreciate you giving us this amount of time today. Enjoy what you do, and obviously good luck going forward as well.
Hey, thank you. Appreciate it.
Baylor football coach Dave Aranda on SicEm365 Radio. A lot. We hope that you got there. There's always time to do more, but we appreciate the time that he has. Paul, you want to anything from that, Craig? And we're going to go a couple minutes over, guys. Mm-hmm. We'll have the 5. It'll be a little bit after, obviously, 5:55. Craig?
I wanted to ask a couple of kind of the personnel questions on the newcomers, because I don't know when we'll talk to them again. And I think it's very clear from that interview that there are, football operations being conducted, but so much of this offseason is going to be, at least initially, while we want to hear about, what's the quarterback depth chart look like right now? Or, hey, how quickly is this guy going to play? We're not close to that time right now. We're at least a month away from that time. Right now, they're trying to make up for lost time last year because he was just arriving basically, or not even yet. When did he get introduced? I don't even remember.
I mean, this is about this week, about this time. And then all of a sudden you've got okay, here you go. Okay, you're going to have spring football.
And you're not.
Yeah. Okay, it'll only be a month. No, it won't.
I wish I wanted to ask him about some of the personnel department changes, but I did ask him about James Blanchard last Friday. It would have been interesting to hear about Pauline and his role as well. But you're right. You're right. There's a lot to get to.
Right. They've got to build relationships, and I know that's not the sexiest thing to hear about. You want to hear about the depth chart and all of that, but that really is a big piece to what they need to do to correct the woes of last year. I mean, yes, there need to be better plays called or better performances had, but at the same time, I do think that a lot of that lack of chemistry at times, or just maybe doubting, because of a lack of familiarity, and maybe not being all the way in entirely, because you just, you don't quite know. I think that's something that's going to be wiped off the table here over the next few months, which is very important, and the football will follow.
How about the question and his answer that he didn't eat or sleep for a day?
Yeah.
We sit there and guys are getting fired left and right?
Oh,
and then there is still human beings.
Somebody has to do it. And
But I loved how he was honest about it. He did not eat and sleep. And he goes, listen, it's on me, but I'm going to be here. So I got to,
Yeah, but, and like the callous thing to do is like, oh, well, he made a lot of money. Yeah, but you don't know if he's going to get to make that money again. What if this is the guy's last shot at it?
Yeah.
Or what if it's just this was – he had a different plan, and your life, the tumultuous life of a coach. Yeah.
Well, and does Dave Aranda seem like the type of guy where money's going to make something as personal as that not matter as much?
No, absolutely. No. So again, it
sounded like he probably could have thrown up at any moment.
He's such a thoughtful and mellow person.
And even that was tested this year, and I like the way he answered that as well.
I do need to follow up with him though on the Dabo phone call about Chansey.
Yeah,
I would love to hear what Dabo said to get that conversation going.
All right, Paul, your top 5.
All right, top 5 at 5:55. An addendum or the continuation of yesterday, because I said 5 bad coaches for Tennessee. I should at least do them the service of the new AD, Danny White, giving him 5 good choices.
All right.
He doesn't need my help. But if he asked, this is what I would tell him. So, are we going 5 to 1 or 1 to 5? Number 5, Tony Elliott, offensive coordinator at Clemson. This guy's going to be a head coach soon. And I don't know if he wants to jump into this, but if you look at Danny White's history of hiring people, he hired Scott Frost from Oregon at UCF. He hadn't been a head coach yet, and he was a coordinator. He hired Josh Heupel at UCF, who hadn't been a head coach yet, and brought him to UCF, and that worked out. So Tony Elliott makes a lot of sense. He recruits in the same region. He's at the juggernaut of the ACC. He's coached a lot of great quarterbacks. To me, that would be a good shot for him. Number 4, this is a retread in the SEC, but a guy who's better than any coach that they've had at Tennessee in the last 20 years, and Gus Malzahn. I'd rather have Gus than anybody if I want consistency coming back to the SEC. And plus, right now you can maybe get him for a little bit less money because the offset language in the contract with Auburn for his massive buyout that he got there. Number 3, here's another one. These next 3 are going to be guys who are a little outside the box. UAB, Bill Clark. They've done nothing but be consistent and good since Bill Clark restarted the program there.
Yeah, built it from scratch, yeah.
And maybe that's
and
what
they're not. Tennessee's not like UT that needs something that's sexy or big, although Sarkisian's probably one of the most low-key along with Charlie Strong. But, yeah, okay.
Yeah. Number 2, Jamie Chadwell, Coastal Carolina. This one kind of makes the most sense with Danny White, given what he's done. If he wants a head coach from a smaller program, if you look at what he's done with basketball, he's done that. Like he brought Bobby Hurley to UCF. That's actually worked out really well for their basketball program. So Jamie Chadwell at Coastal Carolina, they win, and he's an up-and-comer, and maybe it might be a kind of a big jump for Jamie Chadwell, but if he's a good coach, he's a good coach. And finally, a guy I think everybody likes, Billy Napier from Louisiana, SEC bred, knows the SEC, is a Saban disciple, although some of those have worked out.
Did he say no to Auburn? Was he ever given that opportunity?
Yeah, he said no to Auburn.
If he said no to Auburn, will he say yes to Tennessee?
That's what I wonder.
Yeah.
That's what I wonder. But
the rumor is that he's waiting out at OSU. Yeah. I don't know if that's true or not, but that could be the reason to why he's not made a leap yet.
Okay.
Yeah. So
all right, I like those names. I like the
you forgot number 1B. Greg Schiano. Boy, that worked out in your favor, didn't it, Tennessee?
Yeah.
A little karma coming back on you.
Thanks to Connor Carruthers. Thanks, as always, to Jack McKenzie and, of course, Armstrong Sims as well. Thanks to you for listening and watching. Thank you very much to all of our amazing sponsors. Richard Bartell, Chrislyn Carr, also Scott Drew, Adam Flagler, Steve Underwood, Mickey Spagnola, and Dave Aranda. Thank you very much to all of our guests. For Paul, Catalina, and Craig Smoak. Back at it again tomorrow. We'll be on at 3 until 6 tomorrow morning, up-tempo from 11 to 2, right here on SicEm365 Radio. I'm David Smoak. Good night. Stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. See all the things they can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
Born in Waco, Brotherwell Brewing exists to serve the Central Texas community with locally crafted beer of the highest quality. They want to bring Central Texas closer to the brewing experience so everyone can enjoy well-made beer as much as they do. For 2.5 years, they've been bringing high-quality beer to Central Texas at their location on Bridge Street in East Waco. And this football season, you need to stop by on game day for curbside pickup or stop by their tent next to SicEm365 at Brazos Parking for your pregame refreshment. Brotherwell Brewing believes in community and bringing people together to enjoy products made in their community. So for your game day, whether it's a tailgate or at home, stop by Brotherwell Brewing for high-quality craft beer made right here in Central Texas, 400 East Bridge Street, and check them out online at brotherwell.com.
Ideal MRI is a small family business right here in Central Texas. We're open to support you while lowering the cost of healthcare bills. When you need an MRI, ask your doctor for an Ideal MRI. Visit us at idealmri.com or call us at 833-IDEAL-MRI.
Texas Farm Bureau Insurance has been proudly serving Texans across the state for over 60 years. Call 254-772-8090 to find an agent who will provide a free review of your auto, home, and life coverage.